Hello friends, very good evening. I welcome you all to this particular session of strategic cost management. Friends, I believe that you all are fine and doing good on your respective places. In the previous class, friends, we covered the Pareto analysis after closing the life cycle costing, and then we started the EMA, Environment Management Accounting. So the agenda for today's class is not only the chapter number 5, which is the cost management for the specific sectors. We also need to cover the remaining portion of the EMA. In the previous class, we start the EMA and cover some of the basic concepts related to the EMA. But we will try to revise those concepts in a quick manner so that we can establish the link that what we learned in the previous session, how we are going to use in the current session. Because what I feel that what you learn along with me in the Friday's class, many of my friends might not able to recollect the same thing in the same manner. So what we are going to do, we'll quickly try to revise that what we all discussed, so that those friends who connected with us today only can also pick up from this particular class itself. So those friends who specifically coming for the chapter number 5, which is the cost management of specific sector, they can join the class again in next, you can say that 70 or 90 minutes, because the first half we are going to spend on the EMA, which is the Environment Management Accounting. Okay, friends. Very good evening, Anjali from Punjab. Okay. Now I'll take you to the notes in order to discuss the same. Okay. So friends, in the previous class, we left our discussion at the EMA. Although we start learning about the EMA, we understand that what actually EMA means and what does the EMA cost mean and what is the EMA information. But for the friend who just joined in this particular session, and for the revision of my old friends as well, that's who are continuing with me in the previous session too, I'll quickly revise the story regarding the EMA. Okay, so listen first 10 minutes in a form of the story, and then we'll move into the concept. In case of the India, in the year 1984, a tragedy happened, which is a Bhopal gas tragedy. And in case of the world, you can say that Exxon was one of the major incidents which occurred in the year 1989, which changed the mindset of the corporates as well as the government of the nations, that they are ecologically responsible. The moment they come to know that they are ecologically responsible, so the companies start reporting environment footprint data in their financial statements, in their annual reports along with financial statement. It's better to say word annual report along with financial statements. What company used to do, company in their annual report make a small kind of a paragraph in the board report and simply mention that how much number of the carbon they generate, what is their plan, how they will save ecology, what is their impact on the environment. These all things you used to mention in the annual reporting. But friends, I believe that you all will agree on this along with me, that mere reporting will not improve the things. You just report that this much number of the carbon we created, and you are not doing anything to reduce those carbon. You are not going to do anything in order to reduce your energy consumption. You are not doing anything to treat the water which you are generated out of your production process. Hence, it's very important that we must consider the environment at the time when we take the decision. So note number 1 saying the same story. What the note number 1 says, that earlier the environment matter used to be reported when the annual report was made, or it's given to the shareholder, or to be, you can say that, published on the website of the company itself. But later on, it was realized that management must consider the environment issue when they take the decision. Hence, a new form of management accounting emerged, which known as EMA, which full form is Environment Management Accounting. Okay. Now the question arises: what is the Environment Management Accounting? Please, those friends who didn't attend the last lecture, listen this particular topic very carefully. What is the EMA? So the EMA is, friend, using the environment information in order to manage the environment impact so that we can control or reduce the environment cost. So there are three things which are involved. We are using the information which is related to the environment. If we are a company who is producing the power out of the coal using the thermal plant, then we consider how much of the coal we use, what is our input output ratio, so that we can improve our input output ratio in order to consume less coal to produce same number of electricity units. Okay. Why we use the environment information? Because we want to manage the environment impact of our activity. By managing the environment impact, we can be a good corporate company. We can establish ourselves as a corporate citizen. And what is another objective? To control or reduce the environment cost. Hence, EMA is concerned with the three things. What are those three things? The first thing is using the environment information. The second thing is to reduce the environment cost. And the third thing is to manage the impact which company is putting or building on the environment. Okay. Now the another question which is very important. Why the EMA is getting the importance? Due to the three reasons. The first reason, EMA or environment cost is the major component of opportunity cost. Last time also we discussed that in some cases, the company's operating cost, if 100 rupees, then the 20 rupee is the environment related cost. Hence, it's a major part of your total cost. In order to do the cost management, you also need to manage the environment related cost. Hence, EMA is getting the importance. Second reason, in India as well as all across the globe, there are many laws which is pertaining to the environment related aspect. So it is regulatory responsibility of the company, statutory binding on the company that they must protect the environment. If they will not, then they will penalize. So the penalty which is imposed upon them will be another, you can say that charge, which will, you can say that enhance their cost. Hence, the company must implement the EMA so that they can protect themselves from such a category of the penalties. The third reason, obviously, being a consumer, we would love to buy the product from a company which is a green company, which is a ecologically a good company, which is not making any bad or adverse impact upon the environment. Hence, these are the three major reasons due to which the EMA is getting the importance. Okay. Now, moving further. What is the environment? What is the environment information? Very, very important. Note number 4. This is a new concept. This is not already given in your study material. Okay. So listen it very carefully. Friend, environment information is that information which is pertaining or related to the environment. If I'm a power manufacturer, I'm an energy company which manufactures the power. Obviously, I may use the thermal technique or the hydro technique or the wind technique. What is the capacity of the plant? It is a physical information. What is the quantum of the raw material I use? It is a physical information. But what is the value of that material? It is a monetary information. In order to protect the environment, that after the producing power with the thermal technique, less number of ash must be moved into the environment. The treatment plant which I'll use, the cost of that treatment plant, the cost of operation of that treatment plant will be considered as monetary information. Okay. So any information pertaining to environment will be considered as environmental information. Environmental information can be categorized into the two categories, the physical information and monetary information. Monetary information which is termed in the money or amount. Physical information which is termed in the quantitative or qualitative factor. Okay, friends. Moving another topic, because these topics we already discussed in the previous class now. So that's why I'm moving fast. The moment we'll start the new topic, I'll reduce my speed. Okay. The another topic or the concept. What is the environment cost? Very important. The cost which company incur or society bear. Please mind, my dear friend, I use the two words. The cost which company incur or society bear. Now you will ask, sir, how is it possible that due to the decision of a company, society bear cost? Friend, if a company is processing some product or producing some product, in process of which toxic water is generated, now it is the decision of the management of the company to treat the water and then let it be outside the factory, or not to treat the water and just put it into some drain or the river. If they go for the first alternate, they install a treatment plant, then the cost of the treatment plant will be borne by the company. Agreed? But if they don't install the treatment plant, what will happen? The water will be polluted, in which such water is extracted. Obviously, the river or the canal or the drain in which you let this toxic water run, that river will not be now of a clean water. What will happen? The people who use the water of that river or the drain for the irrigation or for other purposes, their health will deteriorate. Obviously, they need to bear the health expenditure. Similar way, friends, government also need to clean the rivers like the Namami Gange mission. Then it means sometime due to the decision of the company bear the cost, and sometime due to the decision of the company, the society bear the cost. No doubt, some of my friends can argue with me, sir, if company not install the treatment plant and regulator will find that he is doing the mischief, he may be charged with the penalty. Yes, no doubt, he may be charged with the penalty, but he did the analysis that what is the probability of penalty and what is the cost of the plant. And he may not be ethical kind of a person. He may be unethical kind of a person who not, you can say that, hesitate to do the illegal thing. Agreed or not? So friends, it may possible that the cost related to environment due to the business decision may be borne by or incurred by the company itself, or may be borne by the society. And society not only include the general public, it also include the government. I believe it is clear to you. Okay. Friends, when we discuss the EMA, we largely concerned with this cost, which is due to the decision of company and borne by the company. We hardly discuss the cost which is borne by the society. No doubt, we must act in such a manner that our environment impact is low. We must act in such a manner that we should not create the pollution. But still, it may possible that despite taking all the care, that there might be some amount of pollution, may possibly it happen, and the society will bear that particular cost. So now read this environment cost definition along with me. Environment cost are the cost connected with the actual and potential deterioration of natural asset due to economic activity. It may possible you actually pollute. It may possible that there is a scope of the pollution. Actually, you are not polluting. You are throwing some bio waste outside the factory, which is not degradable in the nature. It may generate the pollution and may not generate the pollution. So, environment cost is the cost which is connected with the actual or potential deterioration. Obviously, if there is actual deterioration, you will try to control. If there is a potential deterioration, you will also try to control the pollution. In the case of the potential deterioration, the cost which you incur is known as prevention cost. In case of actual deterioration, the cost which you incur is known as corrective cost. Okay, don't worry. We'll discuss this both the preventive and corrective control in the topic to come. Okay, moving further, friends. Now we discuss the meaning, the need, the reason why it is getting the importance. We are moving into the next stage. In the last lecture, we discussed this topic, but prior to discussing this topic again, I wish to tell you a small story, which is very important. Friends, when company employ the EMA, it is largely concerned with the four things. The first thing is what? Identification of the cost which is related to the environment. Agreed? The second step is what? You need to classify the cost into the different heads, whether it is internal cost, whether it is external cost, whether it's a preventive cost, whether it's an appraisal cost, and so on. What is the third step? You need to allocate the cost. For example, if a company is producing three products, product A, product B, and product C, but it has a common water treatment plant. How much cost of the water treatment plant operation should be charged to A? How much need to be charged to B and C? So the allocation is very important thing. Okay. The fourth thing is what? To control the cost. It is not only important that you identify the cost and allocate the cost which you incur. You also need to control the cost from the next time, so that your environment cost must be less. Hence, in the today's class, in the next 1 hour, what we are going to do, we are going to learn how we can identify the environment related cost, how we can allocate the environment related cost, how we can control the environment related cost. Now, in order to give you more confidence, please listen one more thing. Friend, in order to classify the environment related cost, there are 4 methods or the 4 methodology. The first methodology is a generic methodology, which is just written in front of you to classify the cost in the 2 category, internal and external. The second methodology, friend, are given by a body of United States whose name is United States EPA, Environment Protection Agency. This thing is given on the page number 4.36 of your study material. Moving further, the third methodology, friends, is given by United Nations. United Nations का एक डिपार्टमेंट है, नाम क्या है उसका? Division for Sustainable Development, DSD. They also gave a formula that how we can classify. They also give a categorization how we can classify the environment related cost. Okay. Fourth methodology to classify the environment cost is based upon the research paper written by 2 researchers. What are the name of the researcher? Hansen and Mendoza. Friends, being a chartered accountant, you are not required to remember these names, but you need to understand what classification they suggested. Just in order to help you to remember the classification, when I do the classification or read the classification along with you, I will mention that this classification suggested by USCPA. This classification suggested by United Nations DSD, so that when you revise, it becomes easy for you to recognize, to remember, and to recall the thing, so that you can reproduce the same in the examination. Okay. Now moving to the another thing, then afterward we'll start reading. Friend, the United Nations Division for Sustainable Development itself provide the 4 technique to identify and allocate environment related cost. There are 2 things, 2-step identify and allocation. What this United Nations body did, they collaborate these 2 steps. They say when we identify, at the same time we will allocate, and they provide 4 techniques. What are those techniques? Input output method, and then thereafterward material flow method, then thereafterward life cycle costing method, and last but not the least, ABC method. Okay. So now what we need to do? Firstly, we will discuss what are the 4 categories in which we can classify the environment cost. Then we will study what are the 4 methods through which we can identify and allocate the cost. Now, friend, I will stop here and let you ask the query if you have any from the thing which we already discussed in the today's class in the last 80 minutes. Okay, I'll give you a minute or 2. If you wish to ask anything which is not clear to you, please just ask me in the query box quickly. I'll give you 2 minutes. So if you wish to ask anything, you can ask me. Then we'll move further. I believe that you'll keep on sending the queries. Agar kuch nahi clear hai, please send me the query so that we can discuss that. And we'll move further in the meantime to understand that how the internal and external costs are different from each other. Neil from Mumbai. Sir, the study material available on the ICAI website does not has a classification topic is in it. How can we work around that? Will updated study material are released? Friends, this topic is already there. If you see the January 2019 edition on the page number 4.36, what I did, Neil, wherever I wrote the note now, at the same time I wrote the study material number itself. No doubt the revised study material will be launched in some time. You'll see it in the next 30 or 25 days, but we should not go into that discussion. Instead, which is important thing to mention is that this thing is already there. No doubt proper heading is not made, but these classification are written there. So that's why it's important we must study these in order to gain knowledge on the environment management accounting. Okay. Okay, friends, I believe that other will also keep on sending the queries. Please move further along with me. So first classification or the first methodology with which we can classify. This classification is known as a generic classification. Based upon the business boundary, we classify the cost into the two categories, the internal and the external. Internal cost is due to decision taken by the business, incurred by the business out of its own pocket. Hence, it is recorded in the income statement of the company. It will be recorded on either the debit side of the trading account or the debit side of the P&L account, depending upon the nature of the cost, direct or indirect. But it will be written in the company's income statement. What kind of a cost can included here? The cost incurred in form of environment related taxes and the duties, the cost incurred on setting up the project, the cost incurred on discommissioning on the project, the cost incurred on the treatment or the disposal of the water or the waste, the cost incurred to conduct the environment audits. Okay, so these costs can be categorized as internal environmental cost. Now moving to the external environment cost. External environment cost is also due to the decision by the business. But who need to borne them? Who need to bear them? It is borne by the society. And what are the various costs included under this? The water and energy resource which the business is using out of the ecology. The emission of the carbon by the business. Due to the emission, the health problem people will persist and they need to expenditure need to be done on their health recovery and health care cost incurred by such person who are infected by the pollution which is due to the factories or due to the business houses. Then the soil erosion, then the forest degradation. These are the category of the external environment cost. I believe that this category is quite clear to you. Okay. This is not having any practical importance, but we need to know that there are the two ways in which we can classify the cost. Now, one important thing. There is an inverse relation between the internal cost and external cost. If the company installed the water treatment plant, then obviously the pollution outside the factory will be less. If the pollution outside the factory will be less, then the government need to incur the less external environment cost. Agreed or not? Hence, there is an inverse or indirect relation between the internal environment cost. If companies start incurring the internal environment cost, then the government and the people need to incur the less external cost. Agreed? Okay, friends. Now move further. The next classification. Friend, the next classification is based upon the United States body, which is known as the Environment Protection Agency of the United States. The name can be said US EPA. And this classification is also given on the page number 4.36 of your study material. In the June 1995, they wrote an paper in the exhibit of to which they mentioned that the environment cost can be categorized into the 4 categories. Please try to understand these costs with me. The first cost is the conventional cost. Now, what is the conventional cost? Take an example. If some power generation company need to input 100 kg of the coal to produce 3 megawatt of the power, instead of this, the same company introduce 120 kg and they only produce the 3 megawatt. I will say my words again. What is the standard input output? With the 100 kg of the coal, you can produce 3 megawatt of the electricity. But a particular company introduce 120 kg to produce the 3 megawatt. So the 20 kg of the coal, which is a non-renewable resource, which has environment importance, which you input extra, that will be considered as your conventional cost related to environment. Agreed? So read along with me. The use of any sort of raw material, utility, capital goods or supply which has the environment relevance is considered as conventional cost. फ्रेंड्स बहुत ध्यान से समझिएगा, अगर मैं 100 किलो यूज करके ही 3 मेगावाट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेट कर लेता तो ये 20 केजी वेस्ट नहीं होते. But I utilize 120 kg, so I wasted this 20 kg because my efficiency is low in comparison to what it should be due to the poor input-output ratio. I wasted this 20 kg of the coal, which is an ecological resource. Hence, this should be considered as environmental cost. And which category of environment cost it is? It will be considered as conventional cost because it is related to the raw material. Okay, moving further. Potentially hidden cost. Friend, these are those environment costs which are usually hidden in the journal overhead. Take an example along with me. Some company installed the water treatment plant. Because the company installed the water treatment plant, obviously now the laborer need to put the waste into the plant rather than just putting in some garbage bag or in some container. So their motion increases. Motion means here the walking distance. So their motion increases. Because their motion increases, as their working speed and the productivity lowers down, now we are incurring more labor cost. And such a labor cost is not a direct labor cost to produce any cost unit. Such a labor cost is indirect labor cost. Hence, what you will do? Such a labor cost will be considered as journal expenditure or journal overhead. And then this journal overhead will be distributed among the different items based upon the number of labor each department has. You might remember the chapter of ABC, which you studied during your intermediate course. So what we do while we are distributing the cost pool based upon the cost driver, the journal overhead we usually distribute based upon the labor cost in the ratio of labor cost. So a company may do this thing. Take another example. A company conducts environment audit. Obviously, on the environment audit, it may pay certain fee to the environment auditor. But rather than making a separate head of the environment audit, it writes the environment audit also as a journal expenditure or the journal overhead under the administration cost. And then it allocate to all the division. But you must know, if you are producing 40 items, out of the 40 items, there may be only 1 or 2 items which are of such a nature due to which you need to conduct the environment audit. The remaining 38 items may be of such a nature due to which you don't need to conduct the environment audit. because you need to read the government regulation. If you are producing 40 items and out of that 30 item is such a nature which is not harming to the environment, the government will not ask you to conduct the environment audit. But if you are producing two such a nature item which are written in the Environment Protection Act schedule 1986 में लिखा हुआ है, then you need to conduct the environment audit. The cost of environment audit should be charged on the 40 items or only on the 2 items. It should be charged only on the 2 items. But what you did, you consider it as a journal overhead and charge it on the entire 40 items. Hence, what they say that you must identify those environment related costs which are hidden in the journal overhead. So the another category of cost which one can find in the company related to environment is termed as hidden cost. Don't worry, we will study it. मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया है that when we will identify and allocate the environment related cost, then we need to apply the ABC costing. That's why I discuss here. ABC तो आधा हमने लगभग discuss भी कर लिया. When we'll solve the question, we will gain confidence on this. Okay. Moving further, the contingent cost. We took the example in the beginning of the class. It may possible that a particular company may decide that rather than installing the water treatment plant, it will throw the water as it is with the toxic in it to some drain, to some, you can say that water pipe or through water pipe to some river. Obviously, if the regulator identified this, that the company is doing such a category of mischief, the regulator may impose the penalty. But there is not 100% guarantee that regulator will find the mischief and impose the penalty. Agreed? So such a nature of the environment cost is known as contingent environment cost. Now the last, relationship and the corporate image cost. Company, in order to improve its image, nowadays printing the sustainability reports. In the sustainability report, it tells that they are improving their carbon footprint, they are going green, they are always, you can say that putting the go green at the priority. So printing cost and cost of preparing such an environment reports, which will try to improve the corporate image, will be considered as relationship and corporate image cost. Okay, there is again query. Sir, can you please give more example on the hidden cost? Not quite clear. Okay, no issue. Another example on the hidden cost can be increased depreciation. Okay, because if you install some sort of the treatment plant, due to which the block cost of the asset increases, obviously now the depreciation will be high. But the depreciation contains some portion specifically on account of environment pollution equipment. Agreed? You need to identify that how much portion of the total depreciation which you are charging for a particular year, how much portion of that, how much component of that specifically related to the environment cost. So this can be another example of the potentially hidden cost. Don't worry, further discussion related to this will come again in the form of environment driven cost. We'll discuss there as well. So I believe that classification according to the United States EPA body is clear to you. Now we are moving further and going to learn the classification according to the Hansen and Mendoza. This is given on the page number 4.37 of your study material in the form of a box. Okay. Friends, prior to going into the classification 3, let me revise one thing along with you. Although I didn't teach you this particular thing, but you studied this thing in the chapter number 2. In the chapter number 2, you studied the cost of quality. There you study that there are two sort of cost of quality: cost of good quality and cost of poor quality. The cost of good quality classifies or categorized into prevention cost and appraisal cost. And the cost of poor quality classifies or categorized into internal failure cost and external failure cost. Using the same knowledge base, these two researchers, Mr. Hansen and Mr. Mendoza, what they did in year 1999, they say that the cost related to environment can also be categorized into the 4 categories. The first category is the prevention cost. some company install the water treatment plant, then obviously the cost of purchase of water treatment plant or the pollution control equipment will be considered as prevention cost. ऐसी cost जो incur करी गई है कि pollution हो ही ना. The cost which is incurred so that pollution should not occur. Agreed? Moving further. Detection or appraisal cost. Company conducts the environment audit so that it can identify the area which are the prone to the pollution. It can improve its processes in those areas which are prone to pollution. So such a cost is known as appraisal cost. Okay, moving further, internal failure cost. The cost of purchase of water treatment plant come here, but cost of operation of water treatment plant come here itself. Okay, friends, please mind these words again. If we are buying the water treatment plant, the cost of purchase of water treatment plant will come here, the capital nature cost. But if, friends, we operate the water treatment plant, the operating cost will come here, internal failure cost. We generate the toxic water, but we don't want to release the toxic water to the nearby drain or to nearby river. So we decided that firstly we treat the water, and then treated water we will either use again or treated water we will release in the drain. It means pollution is there, but it is in the control of the organization. If the organization wishes, then within its boundary, it can control the pollution or retreat the waste or retreat the water. Okay, so the cost of recycling the scrap, using it again, will be considered as internal failure cost. Further, external failure cost. This is the worst situation. Now you can't do anything. Some of the toxic gases, some of the carbon emitted out of the factory now. So the damage has been done now. Take an example here, friend, in the category 4 along with me. There is some shipping company which helps some oil company to transport its oil container from the one location to the another location. And in between on the sea, the ship sunk. The moment ship sunk, all the vessel also sunk in the sea, which result in the spilling of the oil. And the seabed or the sea shelf affected heavily due to which. Obviously, the government may ask in whose jurisdiction that sea will come. May ask such shipping company that you need to clean the sea. Then the cost of cleaning the sea will come under here. Friend, many a time you solve the accounting question and you see that there is a discommission charge. At the end of the project, you need to restore the site in the condition in which it was originally prior to you start the project. So such a nature of the cost will become under the external failure cost because you harm the site. Now you are bringing it back into the original position. Okay. So I believe that classification according to Henson and Mendoza is also clear to my friends. Now moving to the last classification, very small, very small. The United Nations in the year 2001 and in the year 2003 wrote a report. And in its report itself, it suggests that the environment related costs can be classified into the two categories. What are those two categories? The first category, cost incurred in the protection of the environment. Many a time we studied further, it is also known as the preventive cost or the prevention cost. Quite normal. What is the second category? The cost of the wasted material, capital and labor. You might remember we take an example that with the help of 100 kg of the coal, we can produce 3 megawatt of electricity. But instead of 100 kg of the coal, if we use the 120 kg of the coal, the 20 kg extra coal which we consumed, that is a kind of waste. It means we are not efficient. we are inefficient. There is inefficiency in our production process, due to which we consume input at higher rate than it should be. Agreed? So, according to the United Nations, the environment cost can be of two types. One, where you protect the environment, and second, where you are inefficient and due to which you consume some resource which has environment importance more than you should be. आपने कोई ऐसा रिसोर्स जिसकी एनवायरमेंट इंपॉर्टेंस है उसे ज्यादा यूज कर लिया जितना आपको उसको यूज करना चाहिए था. एग्रीड? चलिए दोस्त आगे चलते हैं. Okay, the note number 7. The management of environment cost is a phased process. The first phase is the identification of the cost. The second phase is the allocation of the cost. But we also know there is an phase number 1A as well, which is the classification, and which we already done. We studied the 4 manner through which we can classify the environment related cost. Further, and controlling the environment related cost. So we need to do majorly 3 things: IAC, identification, allocation, and the controlling. In order to identify and allocate, we have 4 methods, which are also suggested by United Nations DSD, United Nations Division for Sustainable Development. This body suggested these 4 methods. And you will be surprised to know this. In the May 29 exam, these 4 methods ask for 8 number as a straightforward question, that you need to tell the 4 techniques which can be used to identify and allocate the environment related cost. So we are going to spend the 15 odd minute on this. So please try to learn these 4 methods very sincerely along with me. If you feel any doubt, now please ask on the moment itself. Okay, the first method to identify and allocate the environment cost. Okay, what is the first method? As the name suggests itself, input-output method. What we do in input-output method? We simply see how much of the raw material inserted into some production process by the company and how much of the output is generated in the form of finished goods. Let's take an example. Some company is using the wood to make some antique pieces or to make some material out of that, some toy or some wooden, you can say that stick or something. So 100 kg of the wood it inserted, and output which is generated, if we measure in the kilogram, is only 80. So 20 kg of the wood which we lost either may be able to sold as a scrap, or may be possible that not in the position even to sell as a scrap. It is a pure waste. Agreed? So let's take out of the 20 kg of the wood, which was not converted into the output, because a certain shape is need to be given to the wood, and due to which the 20 kg of the wood become a waste. We need to see, can this waste be sold as a scrap? We identify, okay, 5 kg can be sold as a scrap. But the 50 kg 15 kg is a pure scrap. It could not be sold. Friend, please consider this fact. Wood is an ecological important good. It has ecological importance. It's a limited too as well. So if we are using such sort of raw material which is a limited and having the environmental importance, and we are not using it efficiently, our production process is not efficient. We must use the 100 kg of the wood, then we must produce the toys or the wood element which weight or whose weight is also 100 kg. so that there should be no wastage. But we incur some wastage. This waste may be normal and may be abnormal. We are not going into that discussion that what should be the treatment, whether it need to be written in the costing P&L or it should be go into the WIP control. We are not doing that. We are just discussing this thing that the 20 kg, which is a waste, may be a pure waste and may be sold as a scrap. But the waste, which is a pure waste, don't you think that if my process is an effective and the productive enough, then I can save the 15 kg of this waste? Obviously, yes. Hence, while calculating the cost, I should not add the value of 100 kg of the wood. I must add the value of 95 kg of the wood. Because 5 kg I am able to sell as a scrap again. So I must consider of the 95 kg. If there is no part of it can be sold as a scrap, entire 100 kg is converted into the output, then it's very fine. But out of 100 kg, let's say if 80 kg is converted as output and the 20 kg is a pure waste, then instead of taking the purchase value of the 80 kg, I must take the purchase value of the 100 kg. It means I'm also considering the purchase cost of this 20 kg as my cost of production because I wasted the material. Agreed? But what I need to do, I must specifically recognize that out of the 100 kg or out of the 95 kg, 80 kg is a productive output, whereas 15 kg is unproductive output, or uske bracket mein I must mention environment cost. Agreed? So, input output method basically moving along with the preparation of the record of the material inflow and balance the inflow with the outflow. And if there is a difference between the inflow and outflow, the difference will be considered as material waste. Then we need to analyze whether it can be sold as a scrap or it is a pure waste. Agreed? So this is the input output analysis which we can do in order to identify where there is a scope where we can reduce the environment related waste. And please mind it, the United Nations itself said that the 40 to 90% of the environment cost is due to the wastage. Now consider another thing, friend. In order to, here itself, another example so that you can understand this thing in a better manner. In order to cut the 100 kg of wood in a particular shape, obviously we may use some cutter. And that cutter is using the electricity. Electricity may be produced from the thermal plant, which use the coal, again a non-renewable source. Hence, instead of input 80 kg and producing the 80 kg, you input 100 kg and produce only 80 kg. So 20 kg you worked upon. On that you also incurred the cost in form of the electricity and the other cost, which also harming the environment somewhere. So this thing help you, the input output analysis help you to focus on your wastage. And by focusing on the wastage, you identify where there is a scope by reducing the wastage, how I can improve my environment impact, how I can reduce my environment impact. Okay, so I believe that input output analysis is clear to you. Now moving further to the next topic, which is the flow cost accounting. Very important. Friend, in the input and the output analysis, we simply considered only how much of the material you inserted, and then we consider the process and we consider the output. But the flow cost accounting is a bit advanced version. What it say? That the process is nothing but the combination of various activities. You must see activity 1 performed by which department, activity 2 of the process performed by which department, activity 3 performed by which department. Then you must understand the structure of those departments, that how structure of that department impacting the activity. It means it is not only analyzing the difference between the input and the output, it also analyzes the organization structure, because it may possible that some wastage, some reduction in the output in comparison to the input is due to the organization structure. Hence, at each phase of the production, at each activity of the production process, we try to identify, okay, 100 kg insert kiya. So what is the output at this process? What is the output after this particular activity? What is the output after this particular activity? Or what you can say, where there is a process costing, there is more than one process through which the product need to pass prior to converted into the finished good. We must perform the flow cost accounting so that at the end of each process, we can identify that how much is our wastage. Agreed? Friend, इस बात को बहुत ध्यान से सुनिएगा. If there is only one process need to be followed, then input-output analysis is good. But if the multiple processes need to be performed on the input in order to convert it into the output, then the flow cost accounting is the best technique. Agreed? Now moving further. The life cycle costing. Friend, there is a unique feature, or you can say that very good feature in the life cycle costing, that it considers the cost which we incur in over the entire life. So it has a feature of the full cost accounting. Instead of considering only the cost during a particular period, it considers the cost which will be incurred over a product over its entire life. The phase of introduction, then the phase of growth, then the phase of maturity and the decline, and so on. Because we consider the full cost which is incurred on a particular product from its development till its, you can say that, discommissioning. Obviously, we will also consider the environment related cost, because we are considering full cost, all category of the cost. Agreed? Now the next one, activity based costing. Friends, I believe that it is quite clear to you that activity-based costing is a technique basically which deals with the allocation of the cost pool to the cost center using the cost drivers. So, meaning of the activity costing is already clear to you. Now, how we need to use this for the environment costing or in relation to the environment management accounting? For that, firstly, we'll solve the question and then we will read these theory paragraph. Okay. So all my friends who are online along with me, now please quickly pull out your calculator and start solving the question along with me. I'll waiting for you. Please send me a test query, or just send me that you are okay and you are, you can say that, available with the calculator so that we can solve the practical question. Okay, we will move to the practical question now. This is the question we are going to solve, which was asked in the November 2019 exam for the 5 marks. I believe that all my friends, like in the last class, you did the good work by making the good calculations. You will be ready in this class as well. Quickly send the message that you are ready to solve this particular question and the question is visible to you. Okay, so that we can start solving the question. Those who are online, quickly send the message that question is visible to you so that we can start solving the question. Sumit is there from Jaipur. Yes, Sumit ji. Fine. Okay. Other friends who are online, please send me the message quickly that question is visible so that we will solve the question. Okay, friends, let's start the question. Read the question along with me. A chemical company produces the two sort of the chemical X and the Z. Environmental activities and the cost associated with the two chemical are tabled in the table number 1. So here for the chemical X and chemical Z, they tell us that how many number of unit produced are there. The 6 lakh kg of X is produced, whereas 15 lakh kg of Z is produced. Packing cost in the packing material in the kilogram is given to us. Energy usage in the kilowatt is given to us. Then the toxic waste or the toxic release in the form of air in the pound given to us. Then the pollution control machine hour is also given to us. Further, they gave us certain environment related cost. And what they ask us? You are required to calculate the environment cost per kg for each chemical produced by the company. So you need to do what? You need to compute environment cost per kg of the chemical X and chemical Z. Friend, the first cost which is given to us related to the environment is the packing material cost. Because it is a chemical, hence specific packing is required, which is according to the nature of the chemical, so that there shall be no harm to the environment. Agreed? In order to allocate 3,60,000 on the X and on the ZX, what we need to do? We need to firstly determine cost driver. The cost driver will be kg of packing material. Okay. And what is the ratio? 80,000 into 40,000. So in the ratio of 2:1, we are going to allocate this 3,60,000. So it will be 2,40,000 to X and 1,20,000 to ZX. Okay. Friends, I also need the answer from you. Please keep on sending the answer. How we will allocate the energy cost? What will be the cost driver to allocate the energy cost? Quickly, those my friend who are online, please answer this particular question. The energy cost will be allocated based upon kilowatts in the ratio of 2:1 again, in the ratio of 60 to 30, 2:1. So it will be 64,000 and this will be 32,000. Moving further, next, the fine for the release of the toxin into the air. How much pound of the X is there? 2 lakh. How much pound of the Z is there? 40,000. So based upon the weight. And what will be the ratio? 200:40. So the ratio will be 5:1. Yes, Kunal is answering good. Very good. Tell me the amount here as well. 5:1. It will be 40,000 and 8,000. Yes, Sumit is also calculating fine. Yes. Friends, the last one. What is the cost? The cost is of operation, pollution control equipment. Obviously, the number of hours for which the machine is in the running status, that should be used as the cost driver. So cost driver will be number of hours for which you run the machine, operating hours. And what is the ratio? 32:8. 4:1 is the ratio. Good. 4:1 is the ratio. So the cost will be 1,12,000 into ratio of 4:1. 89,600 and 22,400. Can you tell how much total cost we incurred for X in relation to environment. Make a sum total of these four. It will be, sir, 4,33,600, and this one will be 1,82,400. Yes, yes. Kunal from Faridabad is doing good. Good calculation. Yes. Fine. But what was asked in the question? They didn't ask us to compute the total allocated cost. They asked us to compute what? The per kg cost, environment cost per kg. And how much kg we produce? We produce 6 lakh kg of X and 15 lakh kg of Z. So per kg cost of X will be 0.7227, whereas per kg cost of Z will be 1216. Okay, so this was the question which was asked in the November 2019 for the 5 marks, and you can see that question is quite easy. You only just need to identify the correct driver, and the driver is also very you can say that clearly visible, because the name or the terminology is in such a manner that you can easily identify the relevant cost driver. Okay, so friend, I believe that this question is quite clear to you. We shall move further. Okay, now you can see here. So what we do in the ABC costing, as per the United Nations DST, the ABC costing represents the method of the managerial cost accounting that allocate all the internal cost to the cost center, and then the cost driver is used to allocate it to the specific cost unit. So this thing is specifically mentioned for you. Friends, there are another way in order or in which we can classify the environment related cost. The first cost are those which are directly related to some particular cost center. Likewise, the water filtration plant, the sewage plant, or the water treatment plant. These costs need not to be apportioned again with the help of EBC. No, Neil, packing cost will not always be the part of the environmental cost, because here the company is producing what? The chemical. Because the company is producing the chemical, hence the packing will be of specific nature. The chemical need to be packed in the specific tins so that it will not come out or it will not leak. So that's why we consider the packing cost as an environment related cost. You need to see the nature of the business or the industry for which you are doing the cost consultation. If the nature is of such a nature, like the pharma is there, in case of the pharma, the powder which they use or the salt, basic salt which they use, they need to carry it in the specific form of the boxes. Okay, so that's why we consider it. Okay, moving further, friend. We were talking about that it may possible that some of the environment related costs are direct in the nature, whose allocation is not required, but whereas some of the environmental costs are driven costs. Driven costs are nothing but the hidden costs, which we already discussed in the beginning of the lecture. These are nothing but the sort of the hidden costs, which are hidden somewhere. We need to pull out of the total packing cost. We need to pull out those nature of the packing cost which is due to the nature of the product in order to protect the environment. Agreed? So what the United Nations Division for the Sustainable Development said, that you must see whether the environment cost is directly charged to some cost unit or the cost center. If it is directly charged to some particular cost unit or cost center, charge into that particular product or particular center. Like you have some water treatment plant, obviously the cost of running the water treatment plant will come under particular percent. Okay, but if you have some cost which is applicable to different product, like company is producing the 3 product and incurring some sort of the cost, or using the same you can say that plant for the 3 treatment plant for the 3 products, then obviously we need to do the allocation. So this is just mentioned over here. And for doing the allocation, the correct cost driver need to be identified. And who suggested that the correct cost driver need to be identified? These are the 2 persons whose name is written in front of you. What are the name of those persons? The first name person is the Sech-Litiger, and the another name is a Muller, and this thing is mentioned on the page number 4.39 of your study material. That these 2 people said that appropriate cost driver need to be identified. The cost driver can be volume of the emission, likewise we did in the example just we solved a minute back, the toxicity, or any other cost driver may be used which you feel appropriate in your case. Okay, friends, moving further, now we classify the cost as well as we identify and allocate the cost. Now we need to work on the control of the cost. What company can do? Company either can apply some uniform technique across the organization. Likewise, company can go for the TQM, total quality management, and try to reduce the wastage in all part of the processes, in all the you can say that division of the company. This can be one of the way. Another way is what? See the individual ways, see the individual reason and try to counter that your waste is due to using the extra water, or your waste is due to the wrong input output ratio, or your waste is due to the transportation or some other factor, and try to counter that. Okay, so now we will see some factor which is mentioned in your study material, that how these factors need to be counter, and these are mentioned on the page number 4.39 and 4.4 of your study material. Okay, we'll see first heading, the waste. What is mentioned here? That with help of the input output ratio quantum, we can identify how much of the waste we generate, and then we must move into the material flow to look into that which division is generating how much of the waste, or which process is generating how much of the waste, and try to improve our efficiency, our input output ratio, so that we can reduce the quantum of the waste. There is a case study given at the end of the EMA topic in the study material with the name Xerox. I'll tell you the case study in the form of the story. Please listen the story very carefully, that what this Xerox Limited case study is all about. Xerox is the company which is engaged in the manufacturing of the photocopier. Rather than selling the photocopier, the Xerox sell the photocopier on a lease basis. Rather than giving on the freehold basis, on the pure sale basis, they give the photocopier on the lease basis. Obviously, when they give the photocopier on a lease basis, when the photocopy will move out of the factory, they will pack it. When after the lease period, the person to whom on lease the photocopier was given have to return back it to the Xerox. So what he do? He don't usually keep the cover in the very good form. So he buy another packing and pack the machine and send it back to the Xerox. Now the packing in which the machine is coming back to the Xerox don't require that packing material. Xerox, when again you can say that lease that machine to some other lessor or to another leasee, the Xerox pack the machine once again. So Xerox first incur the packing cost here, then the lessee incur the packing cost here, then the Xerox again incur the packing cost when it has to send the machine for the lease on the second time. Apart from that, the Xerox need to incur the packing disposal cost, because the packet in which the lessee one pack the machine and send it back to the Xerox, that packing need to be disposed. Hence, the Zorex need to incur the two sort of the cost. What are the two sort of the cost? The original cost of repacking, and then have to bear the additional cost of disposal of the packing, which is done by the lessee. Now, instead of this, what the Zorex did, rather than using the customized packing according to the size of each photocopier, they start using the tote. Tote are a kind of a carry bag which can fit in anything. So they start using two size of standard tote, which is kept carefully by the lessee as well. Now, whenever the lessee need to return the machine, lessee return machine in the same tote, and the same tote was used again by the Xerox to send the machine to the second lessee. Okay, so this way Zorex reduced its packing cost. This way Zorex reduced the wastage which it generate in form of the packing material. Okay, now moving further, water. What the study materials see, that company usually pay twice for the water. One, when they buy the water. Second, when they need to dispose the toxic water. Obviously, prior to dispose the toxic water, they need to consider, they need to treat it. If the company wish to reduce its cost on the water, what they need to do? They need to identify the various scope area, where they are using the water. They must look into the way how they can reduce their consumption of the water. And by identifying the mean of reducing the consumption of water, they can reduce their cost as well. Moving further, energy. Energy is nothing but the use of the electricity. The company must look into the various ways through which it can reduce its electricity consumption. Company must move to the cost saving or the electricity saving equipment like the 5-star equipments, or the company must move to the solar, you can say that panel. Solar panel must be installed on the roof of the factory if it is possible for the company. And other mechanism also need to be seen, like switch off the light whensoever the worker leaves the factory. So such a mechanism need to be adopted by the company in order to reduce the number of electricity unit consumed, because electricity unit consumed are considered as one of the major mechanism in order to compute the carbon footprint of the company. Moving further, the transport and the travel cost. Company wish to reduce the transport and the travel cost. What company need to do? Company need to use the fuel efficient vehicle. I must tell you a small incident on this, or a market case scenario on this. In Delhi, when you buy the e-vehicle, then the cost of the engine is not included in the value which is determined for the purpose of charging of the road taxes. And the cost of engine is always amounts to 30 to 35% of the cost of the vehicle. Hence, the e-companies also find it beneficial. The person who buys the e-vehicle also find it beneficial. It reduces your cost of purchase. Apart from that, also it reduces your cost of ownership, because the operating cost of e-vehicle is much cheaper than the cost of the normal automobile. Okay, so these can be done. And in order to reduce the transport and the travel cost, because the transport and the travel largely, you can say that responsible for the pollution, because you are consuming the diesel or the petrol, which are the non-renewable resources. Secondly, you are emitting the carbon. In order to reduce that, what you can do? You can do the assignment. You can use the assignment technique of operation research. Means the delivery of your product should be designed in such a manner that particular truck will move on a particular trip or the route for a particular day, so that you can cover more distance, you can cover more of your distributor or the retailer, but you are emitting less pollution by covering the less number of kilometers. So do the optimization strategy in your transportation department as well. Okay, moving further, the consumable and the raw material. We took this example many number of times, that instead of using the 100 kg of coal to produce the 3 megawatt, you use 120 kg. It means your input output ratio is not good. You need to work on your input output ratio. Now, what is the consumable apart from the raw material? This is the story about the raw material, but we need to consider about the consumable as well. Consumable means, if I take a very easy example, the consumable can be considered the ink in the toner of the printer. This is the consumable, which you consume and the toner can be filled again. So what it says, rather than using the cartridge one time and then replacing the entire cartridge, what you need to do, you only need to replace the drum. Or even though despite replacing the drum, now you only need to refill the drum. By doing this, you are generating less waste, and secondly, it will also reduce your cost of operation also. Neil is suggesting, sir, imagine India adopting e-vehicle strategy recently. Yes, absolutely. Any such strategy will be helpful to the company. Okay, friends, moving further. Due to the shortage of time, friend, I could not give much time to each of the topic, although there are n number of stories need to be told to you. And I must also take your advices, but I hope you understand that we need to finish the topic in this particular lecture itself. And then afterward, we need to move to the chapter number 5. Hence, we need to run a bit faster. But this is my promise to all my friends. I'll come again to take the classes on the chapter number 8. I will spare half an lecture for you to take all your doubts from the chapter number 4 and 5. Okay? Not only this, even though if you ask me, I'll spend half an lecture to revise the chapter number 4 and 5 along with you. Okay? This is my promise to you. Now quickly see this particular case study. This is a case study of SCMPE Oil Limited. In this case study, what you are required to do, you are required to apply the environment management accounting in the CNB to manage the environment cost. Friend, I am assigning this case study to you as a homework. As I already mentioned, then I will come again to conduct the classes for the chapter number 8. If any of my friends find difficulty, we can discuss this. But prior to give you this case study to you as a homework, I wish to discuss two lines of this particular case study along with you. Please read along with me. Mr. K.V. Sharma, CEO, is not happy with the high environment cost in terms of waste. We already discussed in the above paragraph. Raw material consumption. We already discussed this point also in the above paragraph. The water consumption. We also consider the water, how we can reduce the water consumption. Energy and transportation also considered above. So this case study is a nothing, but the note which we covered above, it is just a repetition of that. The note number 9 of our lecture note, which we just covered, that will be considered as answer to this particular case study. So I'm not going to study the case study. I'm going to give it to you as a homework. Please read it. Don't worry. From the 4th of December, I'll again come back with you in order to, you can say that, handle the chapter number 8, and then you can take the question on this to me. Okay. Moving further. We need to cover another 2 topics, this role and the pros and cons of the theory, and then we'll move to the chapter number 5. Okay. Now quickly read the role of EMA, which is given on the page number 4.43 of your study material. The role of EMA in the product and process related decision making. How EMA is going to improve your decision making. This is very, very, very important. There are 5 manners in which EMA will improve my decision making. What are the 5 manners or the ways? The first way is different pricing of the product as a result of recalculated cost. Obviously, if we charge the environment cost based upon the ABC method, likewise we did in the question which we just solved, the question of XX and I think WX chemicals, we may come to cost which is different under the traditional costing. Because the cost is changed, hence the new pricing can be established. Re-evaluation of the profit margin. Earlier, it might possible for you that you are considering certain environment cost as a journal overhead cost. You are not charging those costs to the individual product. Hence, your product cost seems low to you. So you are charging less prices and very much happy that you are earning the reasonable margins. But this may not true because you are not computing the correct cost. Once you recalculate the cost after including the environment cost in the cost of production, you must also revise its price, not only the price of the product. You must also ensure that your profitability margin must be maintained. And it may be possible that the cost of certain product change dramatically. The product which you feel profitable for you, after you include the environment cost which you incur due to that particular product, you find that product is not profitable. It is a lossful venture and you phase out that particular product. And not only this, you need to redesign your processes so that environment cost can be reduced and the environment impact can be reduced, which will enhance the performance of organization from the perspective of environment. Agreed, friends? Now moving further, the pros, the benefit of the EMA. There are two major benefits. Number one, it improves your revenue. How it will improve your revenue? Because you are going to enhance your image as a corporate citizen. Because you are enhancing your image as a corporate citizen, the people would love to buy the products from you. Okay, so this is a one way. Another, the cost reduction is also the way or the benefit which you can achieve through the EMA, because you are looking at the manner how you can reduce your wastage by improving your input output ratio, by improving your efficiency. You are looking at how you can reduce your transport cost. Although your purpose of reducing the transport kilometers or the cost is this, that you wish to put a less impact upon the environment. But by doing this, you also helping your organization to reduce the cost. Further, the point number 12 or a note number 12, which is given on a page number 4.4 of your study material, the cons or the losses of the EMA. The first loss, that you need to incur the cost on the compliance and reporting. If you are specified industry in case of which the environment impact analysis need to be conducted and environment report annually basis need to be prepared, environment data need to be published outside the factory gate, then obviously you need to incur the cost on these things. Apart from that, it is an additional burden on the management. Sometimes the management may not be ready, you can say that, to devote time on practicing the EMA and taking the queries related to the EMA. But obviously, if you are going to implement the EMA, then the management need to spare some time for this as well. And the cost of failure. If your company could not manage the environment related impact in the reasonable manner, you are keep on polluting the environment, obviously your image will be deteriorated in the society. Not only this, penalty may be charged upon you, hence the contingent cost which we studied earlier in today's class may be charged upon the firm. So with this, we cover up the theoretical topic related to the EMA. Friends, now quickly, let me move to the examination question. We might not be in a position to solve the question due to the shortage of the time, but let me discuss the question with you. The question is quite easy. It's not tough. And you'll see there are two questions. Okay. I must discuss this thing with you. I must spare the 5 minutes. Okay. I'll spare the 5 minutes to discuss this thing with you. All my friends, please pay attention to this thing. Friend, in the RTP of November 18, question number 7 was placed. A fertilizer company which produced the fertilizer of two grades, grade A and a grade B. And it incurs certain material costs, labor costs, and then certain ABC costs, which you need to allocate. Okay. The same question was tested with minor modification in the May 2019. You will not believe, I'll read the requirement along with you, then you'll believe that it may happen too. Read the first requirement. Calculate the product-wise profitability based upon the original cost allocation, means traditional method. Recalculate product-wise profitability using the ABC costing. Then analyze the difference in the product profitability as per both the method. Now move along with me to the examination question. Read the requirement, the same requirement. Calculate the product-wise profitability according to the original cost method, traditional costing. Recalculate the product-wise profitability based on the activity-based costing, environment-driven cost, means ABC costing, and analyze the difference in the product profitability as per both the methods. Okay. Now, my friends who are online, quickly suggest me, do you want to solve this question, the examination question? No doubt, then we're left with only 1 hour 20 minute or 1 hour 10 minute for the chapter number 5, or you want to move to the chapter number 5? Those friends who are online, please quickly suggest me, do you want to solve this question or you want to move to the chapter number 5? In the meantime, read the requirement D and E along with me. The requirement D, recommend and explain the 4 management accounting technique which we studied. What are those 4 accounting technique? Input output analysis, then thereafterward the material flow or the organization flow analysis, then thereafterward life cycle costing, last but not the least the ABC costing. Kunal is asking, so we need to solve the question. Okay, acceptable. Okay, we'll solve the examination question then. We'll not take the easy one, we'll take the hard one. We'll solve the examination. Okay. Friends, this is a question from the May 2019. What we do, firstly, we read the requirement of the question. Okay. Read the requirement quickly along with me. Requirement A, you need to calculate the product-wise profitability according to the original cost allocation. We'll see in the question and solve accordingly. Okay. Then you need to recalculate the product-wise profitability, but where you need to apply the ABC rather than the traditional costing. What we learn in today's class only. Then you need to analyze the difference in the product profitability as per the traditional method and as per the ABC method. Part D, which is asked for the 8 marks, and the answer is in note number 8 of our lecture notes. You need to explain the 4 management accounting technique for identification and allocation of environment cost. We already studied that in our today's class. Part number E, state why the management environment cost is becoming famous or increasingly important in the organization. Give reason. It is asked for the 3 marks. We discuss it in the note number 3 of our note. And what are those 3 reasons due to which EMA is getting importance? Number 1, it is a major portion of the operating cost nowadays. Number 1. Number 2, the environment is a matter which is of the statutory importance or regulatory importance. And number 3, that the company which are ecologically responsible, people love to buy the product from that particular company. So in order to be the corporate citizen, the company is looking at these particular points. Okay. So now we are going to read the question in order to answer the part number A, B, and C. Okay, friend, read the question along with me. Axel Limited is the leading manufacturer and exporter of the high quality leather products. The product A and the product B. So Axel company is manufacturing 2 sort of leather product. Let's say the leather bag and let's say the leather shoe or the leather belt or any other product, A and B. Selling price per unit of the product A and B is 620 and the 420. So the sale price is given to you. How much it is? 620 and the 420. Both the product pass through 3 processes: cleaning, dyeing, and finishing. tanning, then dyeing, then finishing. During the manufacturing process, fine. Allocation of cost per unit of the leather product manufactured among the processes are given in the table. So in order to produce per unit of a leather bag, how much of the material is applied? Material of 460 rupee is applied. In the first process, tanning, the material of 140 rupee is applied. In the second process, the material of 180 is applied. In the third process, material of 140 is applied. But we don't know whether it is applied on the product A or on the product B. The ratio is given here. 70% of the 140 is applied on the A and 30% is applied upon the B. So now friends, listen this thing very carefully. If in the tanning process, I introduce the material of 140 rupee, then 70% of 140, which will become 98, is on account of the product A, and 42 rupees on account of product B. I believe this thing is clear to you. My friend who are online, please keep on writing yes or no, okay, so that we can move further. Similar way, in the dyeing, we introduce the material of 180, and you can read cost allocation to product A, cost allocation to product B. It means out of the 180 material which we introduce in the design process, 90 is introduced for the sake of product A and 90 is introduced for the product B. I hope this thing is clear to you. Similar way, 140 is a material for the finishing, then 90, 120 and again 90 is the direct labor cost. So the material cost and the labor cost is given to you, but it is given to you according to the processes, not according to the product. We need to calculate according to the product rather according to the processes. Okay, for this what we'll do, we side by side prepare the note for this particular question so that we can solve the question as well. Okay. So friends, I hope this screen is visible to you. What is the total material introduced in the tanning process? It is of 140. What is the participation of A? 70%. What is the participation of B? 30%. So 98 rupee material is introduced in the tanning process for product A. 42 rupee of the raw material introduced in the tanning process for product B. Similar way, in the case of dyeing, the ratio is 50-50, and in the case of finishing, in the question itself, it is mentioned the ratio is 70-30. Okay, so now just distribute quickly along with me. It is 90 and 90, and this one is 98 and 42. Now also allocate the labor cost. Also allocate the labor cost quickly. 90 need to be distributed in the ratio of 70 and the 30. 63 and 27. Here 120 need to be allocated in the ratio of 50-50. 60 and 60. 90 need to be allocated in the ratio of 70 and the 30. It will be 63 and 27. Now calculate the total material cost quickly. I'm just circling the material cost. It is 286. Calculate the material cost of B. I'm putting it in the square. 42, 42 and 90. The total is 174. Similar way, compute the labor cost for the product A. 63, 60 and 63. It will be 186. compute the labor cost for the product B. 27, 60 plus 27. This is 140. Friend, I believe that you remember that the selling price which was given to us in the question, or which is mentioned that we must consider, is 620 and 420. The material cost which we just computed above is 286 and 174. The labor cost which we just computed above, 186 and 114. Now we noted down this much of the data as per the traditional system. Similar way, under the ABC system, we also noted down this much of the data. 620 is the sale price for the product A, 420 is the sale price for the product B. The direct material cost in the case of product A is 286, whereas in case of product B, it is 174. The direct labor cost is 186 in the case of product A, whereas 114 in the case of product B. The ABC costing, the overhead we need to compute. For that, we need to read the question again. Now we are moving back to the question. Now read the question further on. Journal overhead per unit of the leather product manufactured are 230, which is allocated equally between the product A and the product B. Friend, here the wording is not a bit clear, but the intention is quite clear that overhead is 230, which is need to be distributed equally between A and the B. Hence, the overhead cost of the A and B, according to the traditional method, according to the blanket rate, is 115 and 115. Okay. So now we'll move back. We'll move back and write down the cost here. What is the overhead cost? 115, 150. Can anyone tell me? Okay, I will remove this annotation so that it becomes clearly visible to you. Can anyone tell me what is my total expenditure according to the traditional method? It is 586. Here, in the case of product B, it is 403. Now the 17 rupee is the profit here, whereas the profit here is 33 rupee. If we compute it in the percentage, the profit divided by selling price into 100, then the profitability here is 5.32%, but the same here is 4.05%. Now move back to the question in order to apply the ABC costing. Read further. Above cost allocation is based on the decision regarding the pricing of the product. What he says, this 70-30, 50-50, 70-30 is based upon the pricing. The price of A is higher, hence we are allocating him 70% cost, but whereas the price of B is less, hence we are allocating only 30% cost to the B. Moving further. In this industry, all the major product processes have environmental impact at all the stages of the processes, including the generation of the waste, emission of the harmful gases, the noise pollution, etc. The management of the company is worried about the above environmental impact and has taken the initiative, preservance of the environment, like research and development activity aimed at reducing the pollution level. So what the company, what the question is saying here, that the company is very much concerned about its environment impact. So right now it's conducting some sort of research that how it can reduce its environment impact. Reading further, the management of the company desire to adapt the environment management accounting as a part of the strategic decision-making process. The pricing of the product should also be a factor in the environment cost generated by each of the product. What they are now saying, instead of calculating the profitability or the price based upon the traditional costing, they are going to adopt the environment management accounting, and they wish to consider the environment cost also as part of their product cost. So this is they mention in these paragraph. Moving further in this question. So here they mention the journal overhead blanket rate per unit of the leather product, be it A or B, is 230, which include 80 rupee as the treatment cost of the harmful gases, 100 rupee on the water wash treatment cost, 20 rupee is the cost of planting the tree. Whether it become 230, no, it become how much? 80 plus 100, 180 plus 20, it become only 200. So there is still balancing figure of 30 rupee because total overhead is how much? 230. But he give you the classification only for 200. Hence, the remaining 30 can be said remaining overhead or miscellaneous overhead. Remaining overhead or miscellaneous overhead. Agreed? So now you are having the bifurcation as well. And we know rather than just charging to product A and B 115 and 115, we must apply the ABC costing. We must see how much kilogram of the A is treated, how much kilogram of B is treated. Then we will distribute 80 in the ratio of the kilogram of A and B. We must see how much of the water, wastewater generated by A and how much of the wastewater generated by B, so that we can distribute this 100 rupee in that particular ratio itself. And some of the things are given below. You can see here, they mention that tanning, dyeing, and finishing consumes the activity in such a manner. The water in the liter is generated by tanning 900, whereas dyeing is generating 600. Finishing is not generating any water, which is need to be treated. Hence, this 100 rupee should be charged only to the tanning and dyeing. It should not be charged to the finishing. Even though in the tanning and dyeing, it must be charged in the ratio of how much? In the ratio of 9:6. Or this ratio can be further refined, 3:2. So we need to charge it in the ratio of 3:2. So 60 rupee to the tanning and 40 rupee to the dyeing. Agreed? Now moving one step further. Similar way, the treatment of harmful gases. How many harmful gases emitted by tanning? 400 cc, by dyeing 300 cc, by finishing 100 cc. Hence, it must be allocated between the tanning, dyeing, and finishing in the ratio of 4:3:1. So we will also distribute this 80 in the ratio of 4:3:1. So it is distributed as 40, then 30, then 10. What further is written? The remaining over cost and the cost of planting tree can be allocated equally between the product A and B. So this 50 rupee will be distributed equally between the product A and B. A 25, B 25. But what happened to this 100 rupee which we incur relation to the environment in the tanning department? What happened to this 70 rupee which we incur in relation to dyeing department related to environment? What happened to this 10 rupee? For this cost allocation technique is given to us. Again, this 100 rupee need to be distributed in the ratio of 70 and 30. This 70 rupee need to be distributed in the ratio of 50 and 50. This 10 rupee need to be distributed in the ratio of 70 and 30. So out of 100, how much is relevant to A? The 70% is relevant to A, but whereas 30 is relevant to B. Similarly, in case of dyeing, the sharing ratio is 50-50. So 35 is related to A and 35 related to B. In case of the finishing, the 70-30 ratio again, 7 related to A, whereas 3 related to B. Can you tell me, due to these two overhead costs, how much A need to bear? 70 plus 35 plus 7, it is 112. 30 plus 35 plus 3, it will be 68. Apart from that, these are also two other overhead. Hence, 112 plus 25, 68 plus 25. So total overhead now, which will be charged on the A is 137, and the total overhead which will be charged on the product B is 93. You can see the difference here. Earlier, what we are doing, just dividing equally. Now, what we are doing, we are allocating the indirect cost based upon their activity. We are using some cost driver, the liter or the cc here, and basis upon that, we are allocating the cost. Now, moving back to the, you need to remember these two costs, 137 and 93. Okay, we need to move back here. Where we are solving the question, okay, and need to write down here that 137, this was the cost now, 137 and 93, and we need to write 93 here. I will remove the annotation so that you can see the question clearly. You can see the difference. Here we are dividing it in the ratio of 50-50. Here we are dividing the overheads in the ratio of their usage, in the ratio of the cost driver usage. Okay. Now compute the total expenditure, adding these three and add this 3 for A and B respectively. The total expenditure of the A is 587, whereas the total expenditure for the B is no. How much is the total expenditure here? Anyone please tell me how much is the total expenditure here? Okay, 609. Thank you. How much is the total expenditure here? 381. So the profit per unit or per unit of the product A. No, Kunal, you add the selling price as well. Kunal, you add the selling price as well. Please correct it. Calculate the profit, 11 rupee per unit. Calculate the profit here, 39. Similar way, now calculate the profitability ratio as well. That will be 11 by 620 into 100, then 39 by 420 into 100. It will be 1.77 here and 9.29 here. So friend, what was the requirement A of the question? You need to calculate as per the existing method. As per the existing method or the traditional accounting, the product A and the product B yield you 5.32 and 4.05. But whereas the second requirement is what? You need to recalculate the profitability as per ABC, which is 1.77 and 9.29. And what is the third requirement? The third requirement, you need to compare the both. Now, what you need to suggest, after calculating the environment cost on the ABC basis, our per unit profitability of the product A declines. Now, if we wish to manage the profitability of the product A back to the same level of 5.32 from the level 1.77, we can consider increase in the price. Okay, so this will be the answer to this particular question. We are moving back to the question. Now you can see the question which we just solved, which is examination based question. I'll give you an opportunity so that you can click the picture of this. Okay, take a snapshot quickly of this. Quickly take a snapshot. Friend, now we'll take a break of 10 minutes. Okay, it's an 5 minute, not even the 10 minute. It's an 7:50 now. We'll meet again at 7:55. Okay. Friends, after coming from the break, we will start discussing the chapter number 5. There are many important aspects related to the chapter number 5 which one must know. Hence, don't be late. Okay, I tell you everything in a summary form, and there are some new things which is not presently there in the study material, which we must also discuss, which is important for the upcoming examination. What I feel. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll meet again at the 7:55. Yeah. Okay, Kunal. What is your query? Basically, I am unable to understand, Kunal. If you can help me in order to understand this, or you can elaborate it, sir, please. Few seconds on the question page. I click the bifurcation of the overhead cost. Kunal, what you can do, you can go in the recording, which is available on the YouTube for each of the lecture, and based upon that, you can identify that how will solve the question. Okay, Kunal? I believe that it will solve your query or resolve your problem. Friends, you can see here that in totality there are 19 questions basically, all the 20 question. I add another question from my own here and remove one of the question which is in the additional material. So the 19 question need to be practiced from the chapter number 4. And if we see those 19 question, the question which are mentioned in the orange color, these are the case-based question, pure case. The question which are mentioned in the yellow color, they are pure numerical. And the question which are marked in the blue, they are case-based numerical. And you can see here that we only left 2 questions which I gave you as a homework, or this case study as well as a homework, but the remaining question we solve in the class itself. So if any of a question not clear to you, you are advised to view the classes which will be available or which remain available on the YouTube. Friend, another thing, I'll also take the chapter number 8, for which I believe that 5 to 6 lecture will be allocated. What we will do, we will spare one lecture in order to take up the doubts of yours while you practicing these questions at your own. Okay, so don't worry if any of a question remain unanswered at this stage. You will again get an opportunity to talk to me, to send the queries to me. Even though you can keep, you can say that asking your queries on the YouTube portal, I'll sum up those queries and respond back to you when we'll meet again to discuss the chapter number 8 based upon the chapter number 4. Or what you can do, when we'll discuss the chapter number 8, I specifically give you half of a lecture in which you can discuss the queries of the chapter number 4. I believe it will be okay to all my friends. None of the friend is having kind of objection to this particular, you can say that solution in order to discuss the quiz. Okay. Now moving further, friends, we are supposed to, you can say that, discuss the chapter number 5. We are moving further so that we can start the chapter number 5. Friends, in the chapter number 5, because there is a largely theory in the chapter number 5, but it is an interested theory, interested one, which you can remember in the form of the story. So I'll tell you the 3 small stories on the 3 different sectors, and based upon that, you can remember all the important points of the chapter number 5. And presently, some topic in the chapter number 5 are in such a manner based upon which the question cannot be asked, or you can say that they are not purely related to the cost. So in this note, I made an attempt that I must discuss the costing more rather than discussing the sector. Okay, so that's why I add the note number 2 in all sectors which discuss the cost structure, and the note number 3 in all the sector which discuss what? Which discuss the cost management practices. So we'll start with the power sector. Firstly, understand few features so that we can get an insight of the power sector. What is the first feature? The first feature is that the large dependency still on the coal-based thermal power. Friend, here is the data available of the Central Electricity Authority. Now you may answer. You may question me here that, so what is the authenticity of the data of the Central Electricity Authority? So let me share you this particular data here. Okay. Now I'll keep on moving to the different web pages so that I can help you to understand some of the things. Okay. The centralized or the Central Electricity Authority is working under the Ministry of the Power. Just give me a minute. It will take not more than a minute. Okay. Yeah. Here. Here is the Ministry of Power. The Central Electricity Authority is working under Ministry of Power, and it is responsible to measure the power capacity, to measure how much of the transmission is taking place through the grids and the other things. Okay, so the data which is available at the website of the Central Electricity Authority, this is quite reliable data. Okay, so the Central Electricity Authority said this particular thing, that the 62% of our power still produced in India with the help of the thermal power plants. And in the 62%, the 53% is based upon the coal. So if we producing the 100 unit of electricity, the 53.6 unit of electricity are still produced with the help of the coal. And coal is in the scarcity in India. Not only in India, but in entire globe. The coal is a kind of a non-renewable resources. Hence, we must shift to the another sources of the power. We must move to the renewable energy sources. Okay. One factor which is important here, in the year 2019, the coal in India is not sufficient to meet the Indian requirement, be it of the Indian Railway or be it of the NTPC or NHPC, National Thermal Power Corporation. Okay. So in order to run the thermal plants of NTPC, we need to import the coal, and we actually imported 20 billion ton of coal, and 60% of this imported from the Indonesia, 25% of this imported from the South Africa, the 5% each imported from the Russia and the Australia. So it means India, if we talk in isolation, not in capacity to meet its requirement of the coal. If we talk about the world, it is estimated that by the 2032, the world will clearly notice the scarcity of the coal and not in position to meet this requirement. Okay. So power sector of India has a major limitation, that it's largely dependent upon the coal-based thermal power. It must start looking for the other alternate, like the nuclear energy, hydro energy, or the renewable energy sources. Renewable energy sources include the energy through the wind, the energy through the solar, and energy through the industrial waste or the biomass waste. Okay. Now the second feature, the regulated entry and operation. In the power sector, the firm cannot enter into the business at their own wish. They need to take the permission from the government, even though still the atomic power is only available to the government. The private player cannot deal in the atomic energy. Okay. Now moving further, the third feature related to the power sector, widespread stakeholder, including the undisciplined consumer. Please understand these two words. Why widespread stakeholder? Because starting from the government till the end consumer who is living in the village of the far-flung is also part of the stakeholder of the energy generation, transmission and distribution in India. So it's a very, you can say that such a subject which is of a social importance. It is not a subject only of the profitable or economic importance. Okay. Second thing, including the undisciplined consumer. Usually when you read the word undisciplined consumer, now the first thing which comes to mind that the people steal the electricity or stole the electricity. No doubt this is true. But the meaning of undisciplined consumer is not only regarding the mischief by the public or the consumer. What actually undisciplined consumer means, the demand is not stable. Okay, if some leader particularly asks the people that, okay, now you need to light up the lights of your home due to this particular cause, the people will light up. And if some particular leader of a country asks that you need to, you can say that switch off your lights, the people switch off. So the demand is not uniform. Demand should be uniform. Taken another example, on the night of Diwali, everyone used the decorative lights. So the power consumption is too high. Although the grid capacity is same, grid capacity don't changes, but the power consumption pattern of the people are not uniform. Their consumption in the day and in the night are very much quite different. Even though over the days their consumption is keep on changing. Take an example. In my house, the connection which I have, that is of the 3 kilowatt. But whether I always consume 3 kilowatt of the energy, no. Sometimes I only consume 100 watt. Sometimes I consume even though sometimes more than the 3 kilowatt. Okay, so this fluctuation is considered that the consumer don't know their demand, how much they are going to demand. So how the generator or the generation company or the supplier will know that how much unit they need to supply, they need to generate. So it's very difficult to manage this particular sector because the demand or the consumption is not disciplined. The demand or the consumption having the huge variability. Okay. Furthermore, the complex but continuous network of the distribution. You might be aware that the distribution system is supported by transmission system because the power which is distributed to your house is not of high volt. It is of the control voltage. So firstly, the power is generated. Then with the help of power transmission company, they are transmitted from power generation plant to substation. And then with the help of or through the distribution company, they are available to your household or to the factories or the companies or the other places. Agreed? So when the power from the power generation plant moves to the substation of the transmission company, the voltage is quite high. The voltage need to be controlled. The power need to be controlled. The current need to be controlled and bring it to some lower level. So transmitter are used. There are two sort of transmitter, up transmitter and down transmitter. Up transmitter enhance the conveyance of the energy, the conveyance of the electron, and down transmitter reduce that. So the transmission company is responsible for this all thing, and the network of the power station and substation and the transmitters together known as what? Together it is known as grid. Okay, you might you can say that, listen this word again and again. Grid is a nothing but a network of the different substations and the transmitters through which the different geographical area of a particular country is connected in such a manner so that if the demand of one area is less, whereas the supply is available in the another area, it can be exchanged. I'll show you one thing here, which I feel is important, which will help you to gain some sort of understanding. Okay. Friends, you can see here, India is divided, or you can say that distributed into the 5 grids: the northern region grid, the western region grid, then the southern and the eastern and the northeastern region grid. And these grid is nothing but the network of the power transmission equipment, means different substations are connected to each other, so that if the substation of Nagpur don't have electricity, then the substation of the Mumbai can transmit it. Okay, so for this purpose, the grid is being used. Now moving back to our discussion. The complex but the continuous network of the distribution, the complexity of the network leads to the complex supply chain, hence the complex value chain. Because the supply chain is very complex, you generally a layman don't know that how the transmitter works, whether it's an up transmitter or the down transmitter. So these are a kind of an technical thing, hence the value chain is also a technical or the complex in case of the power company. If we wish to enhance the experience of the customer, we must consider some of the technical aspects. Further, the transmission and the distribution loss is also a negative feature of such network. When the power is transmitted from the one transmitter to the another or from one substation to the another, Where the power is generated, that is known as generation station. Afterward, that any station through which the power is distributed to the people is known as a substation. Substation may be of 32 kV, maybe of 16 kV. These are nothing but the quantity of electricity which they can handle in the store. Okay. So friends, when the electricity passes through wire, it generates the heat. The transmitter also generates the heat. And due to the heat, certain electricity it lost. So there is a transmission and distribution loss because the line network is not very much proper. Somewhere the line is disconnected, and somewhere people stealing the electricity through the line by using the kundi or etc. other means. Okay. So I believe that you are able to understand this thing, that it's a normal practices that the transmission and distribution loss occur, although there may be the reason which is a normal one due to the inefficiency in the line distribution system, due to the inefficiency in the cables and the lines which we are using to transmit, due to some transmitter failure, and may also due to the human intervention. Okay, there is an you can say that a study conducted in year 2019, and what the study suggested, that state of Maharashtra alone loses $2.8 billion electricity each year. Nationally, the total transmission and distribution loss approaches to the 23%. Some of the state losses even though exceeds the 50%. India is committed to eliminate this loss. Hence, India is moving on the smart grid infrastructure by 2025. So this is the vision of India, that by 2025, it will move to the smart grid mission. Now, the grid will be in such a mode, or it work in such a mode that there will be no loss possible over the transmission line or over the distribution line. Okay. Moving further, the next feature, the demand of electricity is keep on growing. The consumption is keep on increasing, but whereas the sources which we use in order to generate the power, they are not keep on increasing. Hence, there will be situation of the deficit in time to come. Okay, moving further. The electricity tariff is a feature of the cost and it's a regulated one. Although we said we must move to the target costing, we should not incur the cost and add the profit margin in order to decide our prices. We said this should not be practiced. But in the electricity, still the same practice is ongoing. Earlier, there was Electricity Act of 1948, then the Electricity Act changes. Now the Electricity Act of 2003 is in the place. But the guidelines which was given to the Electricity Regulatory Commission, the guideline which is given to the Electricity Regulatory Commission or the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission are in such a manner that still the commission decide the price of electricity which is charged to the consumer based upon the cost incurred by the generation company, transmission company and distribution company. So price here is a feature of cost. Here the cost is not a feature of price. It means still the traditional costing is in the use in the power sector. Okay, especially when the power is generated through the thermal and the hydro. And it's a regulated price because the regulator decides that what price should be charged, because electricity is a Swarnier function, not entirely, but to the larger scale. Although electricity is now a private matter, the private player can generate the electricity and transmit and distribute the electricity. But still, government feel because large amount of the people who are the below poverty line dependent on the electricity or for the electricity. Electricity is one of the basic necessity of the life. Hence, government find it their own responsibility that they must provide the electricity to the citizen or the natives at some reasonable price. Okay. Further, the power sector is highly capital intensive with the long decision period. Obviously, if you need to build some dam or some thermal plant is need to be you can say that established. It required the capital. Apart from the capital, you need to wait for the 7 and 8 years. This time period is mentioned in the study material, although this may vary, but it's mentioned in the study material that the thermal plant usually took, or the dams usually took 7 to 8 years to complete and to start the production. So that's why I'm just quoting the 7 and 8 years. Okay. I know, friends, I'm running a bit fast, but I need to complete the content within this period, within this session. Don't worry if any of your query remain pending now. Don't hesitate. When we'll come back for the chapter number 8, I'll give you the half lecture. You can take all your queries. Okay. Moving further, the power sector has a great ecological implication and the social importance. Why power sector has a great ecological implication? Because in India, 53% power is still manufactured from the coal, which is a high source of the pollution. And not only the coal, the gas is also, when burning, create the pollution. The diesel, when you burn, creates the pollution. Hence, around the year, 60% of the power is from those sources which are the, you can say that, highly polluted sources. And it has a social importance. Why social importance? Because without electricity, you can't, you can say that, consider the life possibility. Even though this lecture we are conducting, we are listening to each other, we are seeing to each other how it is possible with the help of electricity. So electricity is a matter of the social importance, not only a matter of social luxury. It's a need. Okay. Now moving further, friends. Here the real costing starts of the power sector. This thing is not in the study material. This is an entirely new thing. So please pay focus. Power generation company, then thereafterward power transmission and distribution company. In order to accumulate the cost, what we do? We divide the company into different divisions, and these divisions can said be cost centers. Cost center 1, cost center 2, cost center 3. Now the question arises, in the power sector, what sort of the cost center exists? Friends, in case of power generation company like NHPC or NTPC or any company which generate power either through solar or any other means, can have 3 category of cost center. The first category of cost center is production cost center. If we are creating the power with the help of coal, we must have some sort of boiler in which we put the coal, and the coal then burns with the help of the heat, and that generate what? That generate the ash. Ash moves out, but that generation of the heat or generation of energy is converted into the power, which is then transmitted to the houses. Agreed? So this boiler, which is performing the major task of the electricity production or manufacturing or producing electricity, is considered as production cost center. Then the second category of cost center are utility cost center. You need to manage this ash. You can't let this ash in the air. You will have to, you can say that, reduce the particular particles level. Not only this thing, if you are producing the electricity through some other modes, then you may use the steam, you may use the heat. You are managing those utilities. Basically, what is a utility? What is a utility? Take an example along with me. You might saw the iron wala doing the iron on the cloth on the roadside. The iron wala using the water to wet the cloth, and then he irons the cloth so that the wrinkle get away. The water which he used, he is using the water as a utility to perform his major function, which is the ironing. Iron is the production cost center for him, but the water is the utility for him. Similar way, in the production of the electricity, if some company is using the steam so that the steam can convert the electricity, steam can convert the energy, then that steam center or the unit which is blowing the steam or managing the steam must be considered as utility center. Utility center is nothing but the support center. It is a support to the major production. Okay, agreed? I believe it is clear to you. Moving further, The third category of cost center, friends, can be service cost center. Obviously, there is a need of the repair team who can repair and maintain this plant. So the journal administration and the repair team or the other, you can say that similar nature services, functional services will be considered or come under the service cost center. So what are the three category of cost center which are possible for any power generation company? The first one is the production cost center, the dam, managing the dam itself, then the utility center, turbine, then the service cost center, the administration support. Okay. In the case of the transmission and distribution, friend, there are only two categories of the cost center. What are those? The first category of cost center are production cost center. What are the production cost center? The substations. The cost which you incur to manage individual substation is nothing but the production cost center. Nowadays, you pay the electricity bill online. Earlier, people used to go to the electricity office to pay the bill, and the electricity office is nothing but a small substation. Although the larger substation are there, and at the end there is a generation station from where the power is generated. Okay, so those substations are nothing but the production cost center. You may ask, sir, they are not producing the electricity. Yes, friend, they are not producing electricity. Here, the production is not used as a verb. Here, the production is used as a noun. Okay, the substation which took the electricity from the generating station where the power is generated. This is nothing but the generating station where the power is generated. And this is nothing but the substation. Substation 1, substation 2, then substation 3. The power is moved to the substation, and from this substation to the transmitters, and from the transmitter to the individual households. So these substations are nothing but these are owned by transmission company, and these transmitters are nothing but owned by whom? By the distribution company. So these are also considered as what? Production cost. Agreed? Now the last, the service cost center. Service cost center again the same. Obviously, the substation need the maintenance. This transmitter or the transformer need a maintenance. So who will maintain this transformer or transmitter? Who will maintain or upkeep or repair this transformer? Obviously, the department which is responsible that the line should not be break, the electricity wire must be in a proper order, the transformer must be in a proper order. Friends, you might notice that sometime the place where the transformer is situated, under that or just at the ground level, there is a kind of oil. It is nothing but the cooling oil. When the transformer works, now it generates the heat. In order to manage the heat, it should not blast, it should not heat it too much, overheated. The cooling oil need to be inserted into the transformer. Don't you feel the cooling oil is also cost in order to run the transformer in a proper order? So that cost will be considered as service cost. So obviously transformer will be considered as a production cost, but the department which is responsible to operate the transformer into a reasonable status, into a good status, into a running status, then that particular division or department will be considered as service cost center. Okay. No doubt we spent less time on this, more time need to be spent. There is a further explanation, but I feel that this is reasonable at this particular stage, considering the time available to us. Okay. Moving further, friends, the cost management technique. Currently, only one technique is mentioned, but I feel that this is also must be known by you because in practice, being a cost consultant, we actually practice these things. Okay. So now clearly, please focus on this particular thing. The first thing, value chain analysis. The power is generated, then transmitted, then distributed. There is a supply chain through which the power generates and reaches to the home for the consumption. Hence, we must understand that what are the phases and what are the steps. And we must try to remove the hurdles in those steps. And we must try to eliminate the loss during those steps so that the experience of customer can be enhanced and the electricity must be provided at the reasonable cost and with the reliability. Reliability is also important, not only the cost, with the reliability to the customer. If electricity is there, but it's keep on fluctuating, it destroy your, or you can say damage your equipments. Do you consider it's a reasonable service by your distributor company or distribution company? No, it is not a reasonable service. So value is not only providing the cheaper product, value sometimes also the feature, the manner of how the service is rendered or the product is delivered to you. So it must be with the reasonable quality. Okay. And the value chain is not only, you can say that benefit the customer, it also benefit the company. If the company become bigger and start noticing this thing that electricity supplied by them on a particular transformer must be equal to the bill amount of the various householder which is feeded with electricity from that transformer. Obviously, this company, this distribution company can control the power steal or power stolen. Okay. So the company may also get the benefit from the value chain analysis. Company can also improve its performance. Okay. Moving further, the triple bottom line. What is the triple bottom line, friend? Please try to understand. Profit is considered as a bottom line, but you should not consider only profit as a measure of your performance. Apart from profit, you must also consider the people and the planet. If you are working here, your business is not sustainable. If you are working here, your business is not sustainable. If you are working here, your business is not sustainable. Because in the long run, if you don't earn the profit, but you are ecologically good, you can't survive. If you earning the profit, but you are not ecologically good, you can't survive. So you need to be sustainable. So where the when is intersecting to each other, this point, friends, is known as what? This point is known as sustainable point. Hence, your business idea must be profitable. Your business idea must be in interest of planet. Your business idea must be in the interest of people. Only then your business will become sustainable. Don't worry. In the chapter number 8, we will also study this. It is given by the Ellington. So what I feel that every electricity company must perform or do triple bottom line analysis. Are they giving the reasonable services? Are they meeting the need? Secondly, are they harming the environment? Yes, every thermal company who is producing the electricity using the coal or the lignite or the oil harming the planet. Despite NTPC is a profitable company, it's harming the planet. Its carbon footprint is entirely negative. So company may be giving good yield to its investor, but it's not good from the stakeholder perspective, because the stakeholder, which is apart from the shareholder, also not be benefited by what the company is doing, because it's harming the environment in a very bad shape. Okay, moving further. Full costing. Full costing means what? We must consider environment as a cost of, as a part of the cost of producing the electricity. Unless otherwise we don't consider the environment cost, the amount of the damage we make to the environment will not be in a position to do the correct costing. Okay, so full costing need to be done. Now this is the target for you, my friends. You need to open the balance sheet of NTPC and the other power companies who are using the thermal mode of the power production. Are they doing the full costing? Are they showing their environmental cost as part of their cost of production, or they are only treating their production cost and the service cost and computing the per unit cost of electricity production according to that? Okay, moving further, the last one, cost control technique. Friends, please mind one thing. We learn a feature about the power sector, that in the power sector, price is purely based upon the cost. The power companies incur the cost, Electricity Regulatory Commission conducts their audit and approve the cost, and then allow the reasonable margin to them to charge. And based upon this, they determine the price. Hence, price is not market-led. Hence, target costing is not a possible approach here. The cost reduction is not a possible approach here, or though possible, but not very much relevant and viable approach here. What are the techniques? What are the method is viable here? We started the chapter number 4 with the cost reduction versus cost control. Here the cost control has a more importance than the cost reduction. The two famous technique of the cost control are what? The standard costing and budgetary control. So budgetary control and the standard costing must be used by the power company in order to control their cost, contain the cost. They should make a yardstick that they will not incur beyond this. Obviously, if they put a yardstick to themselves now that within this much we need to produce the electricity, it is going to favor all the stakeholder. The cost of electricity gonna reduce. Obviously, for reducing their own cost, what they will do? They will try to look the various waste which they are currently generating. They try to reduce those waste. So it will bring a kind of cost optimization inside the company and also benefit the clients or the consumers, because the consumer getting the electricity at the cheaper rate. And it's also reduce the burden of the government, because government is still giving the subsidy to the various entities who are using the electricity. Government providing them the electricity at the cheaper rate. Like to the farmer, they are providing either free electricity or the electricity at a cheaper rate. If the electricity itself become cheaper, then they need not to give the subsidy. Hence, it's a beneficial to all the stakeholder if the power company applies the cost control in the reasonable manner. Okay, friends? Friends, let me move further to the next sector. Very, very important sector, especially in the news nowadays, because the MSP is in the dispute. Okay, so a very important sector. We'll start this sector also with the discussion on the feature about the sector, so that you must have a insight. Okay, what is the first feature? Fragmented structure of the industry. Firstly, let me tell you, agriculture is a very wide word. Agriculture is not only cultivating the land. Agriculture also include horticulture, poultryculture, and some other things. But the chapter number 5 is written in such a manner that we limit our discussion only related to cultivation of the land. Agreed? So I'll also keep myself contained to the cultivation of the land for sake of the food. Okay, but agriculture is a wide thing, very wide thing. So first feature, fragmented structure of the industry. If you see the entire India, it is not the one place where the agriculture is, you can say that, considered as a hub, and the rest of the part there is no agriculture. In every state of India, you will find the reasonable number of the person who pursue the agriculture as their livelihood, or as their profession, or the vocation, or the, you can say that, as their business. 58% of Indian population is engaged in it, and you find them available at all the places. So agriculture is not like that it's majorly only in the Punjab. No doubt in the Punjab or Haryana, large number of the population engaged in the agriculture activities. But in the rest part of the country, the scenario is almost same, more or less it's the same. But the agriculturalists don't have a larger, you can say that, lands. If I talk about the Punjab, in the Punjab, 50% of the farmer are of such a nature who are having the land less than the 2 hectare or acre. So farmer are the small, although they are large in the number, hence the sector is fragmented. Tuta or bata hua, chote chote tukdon. So it's a fragmented sector. Moving further, lack of understanding of the cost management by the farmer. Although our country's farmers are well resourced, or you can say that, not only from the perspective of money, I'm saying this thing, but from the perspective of having reasonable knowledge of the life and what they are doing. They are very much knowledgeable about the things, what they are doing, how they are producing, how they are cultivating. But obviously, they don't know much about the cost management. Hence, they could not control their cost. They could not manage their cost. They find it difficult to do. And there is no some specific regulator which can guide the farmer that how they can manage their cost. So this thing is, you can say that a kind of a negative feature of the agriculture sector. Further, understanding the potential to work collaboratively. It may possible that the farmer can come together and do the collaboration, and in the collaboration they can, you can say that, enhance their farm sizes. The different farmer who is having the small pieces of land can come together so that they can use the advanced technique. Because a farmer who is having only a land of a 1 acre may not use the tractor, but if the 4 farmer coming together, they may afford a tractor. So there is a scope. By coming together, they can make a change. Okay. So basically, this point is advocating the contract farming. You can say at some level that there is a scope of the contract farming. We are not saying that it is beneficial or it is not, but we are saying that there is a scope of the contract farming. Further, imbalance of the power distribution. The person who grows the agriculture produce is not that much resourceful. He largely dependent upon the marketing system. In the marketing or in the market, if the wholesaler or the adatiya or the corporate house willing to buy his produce, only then he'll capable to sell. Otherwise, he is under pressure to sell his produce at any price. So you can say that the farmer is not equipped with the required amount of the power. The negotiation power of the farmer is quite low. He's usually pressurized by the marketers or the different player who is available in the supply chain, so that they can make a huge profits, although the farmer is not getting the same amount of the benefit. Okay. This is only the reason due to which the MSP come into the play. No doubt, I'll tell you a small story on MSP when we'll reach to that particular topic. Okay. Moving further, the last point. Agriculture is a procedural process, and there are basically 8 steps which is need to be performed in order to selection of the crop up till the harvest. And what are those 8 steps? Let's quickly see that. This is not in the study material, so pay little attention to this thing. Crop selection. Firstly, you need to select the crop which you are going to produce, because this will decide that how much of the working capital you require. This will decide when you are going to harvest, when your farm will be free from the produce, and how many produce you can produce in the year. Apart from the Rabi and the Kharif, you can also produce one small summer season as well. So you can use your land twice in the year. So crop selection must be very, very, very careful. Okay. Moving further, the land preparation. According to the crop which you select, you need to prepare the land accordingly. Okay. Then the seed selection. What sort of the seed you are going to use? You might heard about the different variety of the potatoes or the onions. It all depends upon the seed which you select. Then the seed sowing and the irrigation. It's very important that which mechanism of irrigation you are using. Although India is you can say rich or reasonable from the perspective of the irrigation, although only the 43% of the land is with the irrigation capacity. But still you can say that the monsoon more or less remain reasonable. Some days or some years it's not very good, but more so over it's a reasonable, and in India it's a valid thing. But irrigation is very, very, very critical thing, because if you select the irrigation with the help of pumps, then one-time cost is there to install the pump, and later on you need not to be dependent on the other things. But if you wish to use some kind of an like the taps or the proppers, then the cost of operation is also there. So you need to see that which mechanism you are going to use, because it's largely change your cost. The crop growth, the crop is growing, you need to, you can say that, keep care of the growth of the crop. And in order to, you can say that, attain a required growth, you will have to use the fertilizer and the pest control. The harvest is there at the end, and farmer need the information at all these 8 phases. So these are the very important pieces. One who are going to consult some agriculture or agro-based company, he also must be aware about these technical things. Only then he can advise the company. Because when this phase will due, and what information upon which the company is relying, and what are the level of the, you can say that, working capital, because at the crop selection, you come to know this particular thing, so you need to manage the fund accordingly. And obviously the availability, likewise you opt a particular seed in order to grow the crop, whether that seed is available or not, whether that sort of the fertilizer is available or not. Like the urea is always in the scarcity in Indian market nowadays. So these factors need to be considered. Okay. Now moving to the costing related discussion, the cost of cultivation and the cost of production. Let me tell you first the difference between the two. When you compute the cost of crop, then it will be known as the cost of cultivation. When you convert this cost to the per hectare, per acre, then it will be known as cost of production. So both are the same thing, only the unit measurement is different. The cost of cultivation and the cost of production include two sort of the cost, one which is paid in the cash and other are imputed. Many a time the farmer owns the land, so he is not getting the rent for the land. Instead, he is putting his land for the farming purpose. Hence, the opportunity cost, the imputed cost need to be considered. The family member of the farmer is also involved either in the labor or either in the management of the activities. Hence, the family member are not working somewhere else. They are losing their money there. Hence, the opportunity cost is need to be considered. So it's not only the cost which is incurred out of the pocket by the farmer. Sometimes the imputed cost is also there. Friends, further, the cost is computed in the standard notation A1, A2. This is entirely new for you. I strongly believe that in the upcoming edition of the study material, you will see this particular thing, that how the cost of the cultivation can be computed. You can see this particular table. I just show it for you. A1 include all the cost which is incurred by the farmers, and then thereafterward we need to add the rent of the land. It becomes A2. Then we need to add the interest cost of the capital or the equipment which is of the capital nature. It become a B1 or a B2, and then further on we need to add some of the imputed cost or the cost of the farmers family who is engaged in the agriculture activity. No doubt the Swaminathan committee suggests the government that in order to compute the cost of the cultivation or the cost of production, the farmer's family who is contributing to the agriculture activity, their opportunity cost must be considered. But the government at some point not finding it reasonable, hence discussion or the, you can say, the deliberation are ongoing. So we'll discuss this thing when we reach to the MSP again. Okay. Moving further, the note number 3, the cost management. The two cost management technique which can be applied in the agriculture sector are what? Number 1, target costing. You are aware that government is offering the minimum support price, MSP. MSP can be considered as the target price by the farmer. And the farmer can reduce a amount of the profit from this. Although it is said by the government that we compute the cost and then add the 50% margin and then only we decide the MSP. Okay. So farmer, according to his will, can reduce the desired profit margin. And after reducing the desired profit margin, the farmer can compute the target cost within which he will have to or she will have to produce the particular crop. Okay. So target costing has a scope in the agriculture sector. Further, the ABC costing. Obviously, in order to compute the actual cost in the accurate manner, we must apply the target costing. For example, a farmer is having a tractor which he used during the entire year. Entire year during the Rabi, he put the 2 crop in his farm. During the Kharif season, he put the 2 crop in his farm. During the summer, he put a small crop of a groundnut, etc. in his farm. So he used same tractor for the 5 crops. Now, how much cost of operating of the tractor need to be charged to the Rabi crops? How much of the cost need to be charged to the Kharif crop? For this, the ABC costing can be used. Obviously, it's difficult for the farmer, but if some company is doing at a corporate level by contract farming, the company obviously must use it in order to calculate the correct cost of each of the crop. Okay, friends, moving further. The minimum spot price. Very, very relevant issue in nowadays. Prior to move into the minimum spot price, let me tell you one thing about the act which is just passed or the enacted. What the act related to the agriculture, which is enacted recently, said there are basically three acts. One act gives the permission that the contract farming can be done, and the name of act is mentioned here. The section 3 allows that the contract farming can be done or the farming agreement can be signed. And the section 5 of itself is said that the price of the produce must be mentioned in the agreement. Apart from that, there is another contract which allow the farmer to sell their produce outside the mandis. And the third change is in the Essential Commodity Act. We should not move much into that, but only thing which I just need to tell you that the government is trying to make contract farming more formal. They try to put up into the legal framework. Framework is good or bad, we are not going into that. Okay. Now coming back to the minimum spot price. The minimum spot price is nothing but the price at which the procurement shall be done from the farmer. It is a kind of a minimum guarantee price to the farmer. Okay. So MSP is a guarantee to the farmer. At this price, the proceed agriculture produce will be procured from him by the person who are procuring the agriculture produce in the markets, usually by the RTIAs. RTIA will procure the, you can say that agriculture produce at this price, not lower than this price. Now, let me tell you some realities. Okay. First question arises that who determines the minimum spot price? Let me tell you, in India, the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare is there. Okay. It will take a minute, not more than that. Okay. This is the ministry basically. Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Under that, there is a department, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. Under this particular department, a commission was constituted. What is the name of commission? Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. This commission is responsible to recommend the MSP to the government. And it's a government mind that whether to accept the recommendation made by the commission or not. You can see, starting from the year 2012 up till the year 2020 and 2021, the current fiscal year, the MSP are written in front of you. Friends, there are 23 crops for which the MSP are suggested. But if you count from this now, you will find it is more than 23. Why it is more than 23? Because paddy are of different type. Soybean, maybe of the seed, maybe of the black seed or maybe of a yellow seed. Similar way, the sugar cane of the different, you can say that yield or output. In the case of sugar cane, the MSP is dependent upon how much of the sugar, how much of the juice can be yielded from the sugar cane. Okay, so if you see count number of the MSPs, you will find the MSPs are around 29 or the 30. But for how many crops it is decided, there are only 23 crops for which the MSP are decided. And what are those 23 crops? Let me discuss the same with you. Okay, here are the, okay, you can see here. There are 23 crops for which MSP is being decided. And this includes the 7 cereal crops and then 5 pulses, then further on the 7 oil seed, dalhan, tilhan. I believe some of my friends able to understand this in a Hindi, but the name are written in front of you, and the 4 commercial crops. So for these 23 crops, the MSP are being decided. Let me tell you a small story, which is very interesting one too. Friends, in the year 1963 and 4, when India faces the scarcity of the food, and after Nehru ji, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji became the prime minister, and India is looking for the green revolution. So Sastri ji, or you can say that the other leaders ask the farmer why you can't grow the wheat and the paddy for the citizen of the country so that we can feed the entire country. What the farmer's point? There is no guarantee to us of the minimum price. If we produce it in a large quantity due to the high supply, the prices will fall down. So there must be some minimum guarantee. So Jha committee was established, which at then recommend that 54 rupee, it is a price of 1965 or 6, 54 rupee per quintal will be paid to the farmer for the wheat. Okay. So from the year 1965 and the 6, this practices of MSP start. For the first year, 66 and the 7, the MSP was announced and actually given, and you can link it with the Green Revolution, and the farmer produced this much that it's able to feed the entire country, and India is now, you can say, that exporting the food grain too. Okay. So now moving further. Friends, there is a small case study which is given in the chapter number 5. But let me tell you that this case study, which is given in the chapter number 5, is more over related to the retailing. There is some chain which is selling some fresh vegetable and the fruits, but the company is finding it difficult to sell because there is a local mandis, and local mandis wala and the street hawkers or the hawker which are standing on the side of the roads, having a strong network and the political pressure. So many a store which is opened during last 2-3 years, you can say that reached to the position where the store need to be closed. Hence, if you read this case study, you find it very easy. So I'm leaving it to you as an homework. Don't worry, when we'll meet again in for the chapter number 8, you can take your doubts related to this if you have. Now we are moving further to the last sector, which is the IT sector, and try to cover this in the next 20 or 25 minutes. Okay. So about IT sector, what is given in the study material, that is, you can say that a generic discussion, a very less discussion related to the costing. And in this notes, I tried that I must give you some sort of insight how the cost structure of the IT companies or IT enabled services companies are designed. What are the things you need to be clear at or a focus at, okay, being a cost consultant of the IT sector. Let's start. Let's quickly see the feature of the IT sector. The first feature, information technology is the driver of the change, hence of the growth. IT revolutionized the way of working. Currently, there is industry 4.0 into the play. Okay, what is the industry 1.0? Industry 1.0 when machine was introduced. What is the industry 2.0 or 2.0? The 2.0 or 2.0 is nothing but introduction of the assembly line. And what is the 3.0? The 3.0 is the introduction of the computer. But now it is not only the computer. Now, even though the machine become intelligent and it itself can identify that how to assemble the thing. In the automobile sector, for last even though many years, the machine are used to paint because they can paint better than the human on the car. So information technology change each and everything. And obviously, there are the software and the hardware engineer at the end who belongs to the information technology industry, IT sector. So IT sector is in a huge demand. Why it's in a huge demand? Because the IT is a dynamic in the nature. It's keep on changing. And to grow, it's important to consider the IT. You can't resist the IT. You will have to consider it. Hence, the feature 1 and the feature 3 are linked to each other. The technology is a dynamic, and this dynamic nature of the technology, you can say that result into the small life cycle of the products. For example, the window which you buy today, will be useful maybe for only 2 years or 3 years, then another version of the window will be launched. Hence, the company who is producing the window, for them, the life cycle of the window is 2 to 3 years. And you being a consumer, you need to absorb the expenditure which you incur on the purchase of the window within a 2 year or 3 years. So this is having the high impact upon the costing, these two features. Number one feature is what? That the growth is due to the IT, and the second is that IT is a dynamic. It means the people will keep on growing, and things keep on moving or changing because the things are keep on changing. Hence, you need to upgrade yourself. If you don't upgrade yourself, if you don't move to the next version of the taxation software or some other accounting software, then it's a problem for you. And in order to upgrade, you need to pay extra cost. Hence, IT has a very huge impact nowadays on the business cost, okay? Directly and indirectly. If you see the IT sector itself, the software which the IT people are using, that's also keep on changing. So their cost is also, you can say that very high. Their operating cost is also high, okay? Moving further, the capable to turn the globe into the global village. Obviously, the IT techniques bring the globe to nearer to each other. But why we discuss this point? Friend, the 5-force model of Michael E. Porter is quite important. Although in the previous two sectors, I didn't discuss it deliberately due to the shortage of time. But obviously, we need to discuss it. If the globe is a global village, so the IT sector of India need not to fight only the Indian IT firms within the Indian IT firm. It need to fight with the other IT firms too. Okay, we need to consider this fact. Okay, moving further, the large portion of the revenue come from the export. In case of the Indian IT sector, the domestic and the export revenue of the IT sector was estimated as $44 billion and $147 billion respectively in the 1920. You can see this thing, that domestic revenue is $44 billion, whereas the revenue from the export of IT services and IT product are $147 billion. It means if we put up in the ratio is of 1:3, or 75% of the revenue coming from the export. We largely, our IT sector largely depend upon the rest of the world. If the rest of the world not doing good, then obviously our IT sector will not perform good. Due to the COVID, if the entire world is closed, our IT sector is equally closed. Or you can say that if there is a recession in the America or the Europe, our IT sector will lose major business. Because in this 147, the major component are what? The major component are the America and the Europe. If we take example of the TCS earns its 93.4% revenue from the foreign. So this is very, you can say that important feature of the Indian IT industry. Moving further, major employer in the service sector. In the total IT and IT enabled and the hardware related sector, total 4.3 million people are working at the end of year 2019 December. And this data is as per the website of IBEF. Okay. And the top 4 IT firms, TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and IBM. In these 4 firms, around 10.2 million, sorry, not 10.2 million, 10.2 lakhs. 10.2 lakhs people are employed. So in case of the India, it's an one of, you can say that reasonable sector, reasonable size sector from the preview of the employment. Moving further, the 2 serious risks. These 2 serious risks from the IT sector are what? Number one, the data security, because IT is largely dealing with the data. Hence, data is one of the very critical factor. And another critical factor is the non-biodegradable waste. Likewise, I'm using the webcam, I'm using this pen tablet. Whether these are the biodegradable waste, answer is no. Hence, it will become a one-day problem for the entire world that how to waste such a things. Okay, so these 2 points also need to be considered because it's having the environmental impact, and we need need to apply the life cycle costing or the full costing. Then we must also consider that one phone which we buy, how it is disposed of. The cost of disposal must be included in the cost of ownership of the phone. So these are some important features. Okay, moving further, now we need to discuss the cost structure, and then afterward the various cost management technique. Okay, so let's start discussing the cost structure. There is no uniform cost structure in the IT sector because it depends upon the segment in which the company is working. Company may be working in the IT enabled services like the TCS, which prepare the ERP software and help the organization to use that software. Company may be engaged in development of the software. Company may be in the manufacturing of the hardware or etc. So there is no uniform structure which we can apply to the IT sector. But one thing is noticed, that employee cost is more than the 50% of the total operating expenditure. And the fee for the technical services or the subcontracting is also in the double digit. It means IT company took a contract but could not able to perform the contract at its own because due to the lack of the technical knowledge, or you can say that due to the less number of the manpower or due to any other reason. So it subcontracts some portion of the contract to the person who is an expert at it, who is a master at it. It outsources some of its, you can say that contract. So the cost of outsourcing or cost of subcontracting is 10%, whereas the employee cost, because in the IT sector, large cost is incurred on the salaries. Employee cost is more than the 50%. Now your question may be, sir, we don't believe in your words. Give us the proof. The proof is in front of you. In case of TCS, for the year 19 and 20, which is just closed as per their annual report, I'm saying, the employee cost is 72% of their total operating expenditure as on consolidated basis. In the previous year, it was 71%. In case of Infosys, the employee cost is 71.08%. In the previous year, it was 70%. In the case of Wipro, in the year just closed, employee cost was 63%, but in the previous year, 18-19, it was 59%. In the case of HCL, it's low. It's 47% in the year 2018 and 19, although the data for the 19 and 20 is not yet available. Okay. So you can see that around 50%, or in some cases, even though near to the 70% is the employee cost. Friend, although the cost accounting standards are not in your syllabus or not in your curriculum, but the cost accounting standard 7 deals with the employee cost. Hence, it's very important for one to apply the employee costing standard very carefully, and not only this, to measure the variances related to the labor very carefully, and also need to focus on some aspect like the headcount, etc., in a critical manner. Okay. So what are the cost management technique available? The first cost management technique is the life cycle costing. Why? Because we mentioned that IT is a dynamic. The life cycle is small, it's not very large, it's of a 2 or a 3 year. Any technique not survive more than that. No doubt some of the technique are for the 10 years as well, or the larger than that, but still the life cycle costing is very much essential in the IT sector. Further, the throughput accounting. What is the throughput accounting? How it is different from the traditional accounting? The throughput accounting says that in order to compute the contribution, you should not consider material, labor as your variable cost. You must consider only material as your variable cost. Labor shall not be considered as variable cost. Why? Because the law in the India, not only in India, even though in the globe, in such a nature that you can't hire and fire the employee. Although due to the COVID, labor law also changed, and nowadays, if a company which having the employee less than the 300, they need not to ask or take a government permission. But the company who is having the employee more than the 300, they need to ask to the government prior to fire any number of employees, prior to do any kind of a retrenchment. Hence, labor cost is not a variable cost for you. You can't ask the labor, if you don't have a work, please go home, I can't pay you. You'll have to pay them if they are in the regular employment with you. If they are contractual labor, then it's a different story. But if they are regular employee, they are on the roll of the company, then you have to pay them. You can't fire them. It means labor cost is now, in case of IT company, shall be considered as a fixed rather than a variable cost. Hence, rather than computing the normal contribution, we must compute the throughput contribution. So, throughput accounting has a significant application in case of IT sector. Friend, I believe that you already studied the throughput accounting in the earlier chapters. So, I'm not explaining the throughput. I'm just asking you to consider that the 70 to 50% cost is the employee cost. And employee cost cannot be considered as an fixed cost, variable cost. It must be considered as a fixed cost. If you're 50% of the cost, to whom earlier you used to consider as a variable, but now you are going to consider it as a fixed, obviously your entire contribution PV ratio are going to change. Hence, the throughput accounting is essential to apply. Further, value chain analysis and value shop analysis. Very essential. In the IT industry, if you are selling the hardware, then no doubt the product is standardized. But if you are selling the IT-enabled services, the KPO, the PPO, or apart from that, some sort of software or ERP packages, then it's highly customized. Then you need to understand which feature the company, which feature the customer value the most. Company need to inculcate that feature in the service or enter the services in the manner in which the customer wishes to take or accept. Hence, friends, the scope of application of value chain and the value shop is quite a high in case of the IT industry. Further, outsourcing. As we already mentioned that cost of subcontracting is the 10% of their total operating cost. Hence, you must be wiggle while doing the outsourcing. And there is another technique, I believe that you remember in the gain sharing. Let me explain it to you in a very, you can say that quick manner. Friend, if I outsource to some person one of my process, then what I will believe, I also expect from that particular person to whom I outsource that he will keep on improving his processes. Obviously, if he improves his processes, his cost to render me the same service for which I outsource the process to him will be cheaper. And what I expect that he will share some gain out of the cost saving with me. Take an example here. I outsource the process one to the outsource contractor. Outsource contractor says, okay, we will charge you 300 rupees for each unit or each hour. I helped or put a condition in the outsource agreement itself that you, either with my help or without my help, keep on trying to improving your processes. So the outsource contractor keep on improving his processes. By improving his processes, his cost of providing me this service become cheaper. Now, obviously, he should not charge me 300. He should be charged something less. So, whensoever you do outsource, now see, is there a scope of improvement in the processes performed by the outsource contractor? If there is a scope, ask him to add the gain share clause or separately enter into the gain share arrangement with the outsource contractor that if you improve and save some cost, then we will share the benefit of the cost saving. Last but not the least, ABC costing is also one of the technique in the IT sector in order to compute the correct amount of the cost. charging the cost to the exact cost center or the correct cost center in the correct proportion, so that the decision must be appropriate enough. Friend, with this much, I conclude the chapter number 5, but I'm very much open to take the doubts and the queries both from the chapter number 4 and 5 from you, because I know that we completed the chapter number 4 and 5 in very, you can say that a quick mode. 4 lectures are not quite enough for both the chapters. So don't worry, when we'll meet again for the chapter number 8, if any of your doubt is there, and while solving the question, if you come across any confusion on the query, you can ask me when we'll meet again for the chapter number 8. Till then, take care of your health and take care of your, you can say that aspect which is related to you. If any of one you have a query, please send it to me. It's presently 9:13. We will wait for the another 2 or 3 minutes. At the 9:15, we will close the session. Okay, friends? And thank you for your patience and the time which you devote to this class. Yes, friend, you might need to listen this twice or even more than that, because I move or run very fastly. You'll have to listen this class more than once in order to understand all the concept. Believe me, we not left anything. I tried to cover each and everything which is important from the study material perspective or the examination perspective. Okay. If someone require the URLs which I used in order to share the screen with you, likewise the information related to the power sector or information related to the you can say that agriculture sector of MSP, etc., which I shown to you in a class, you can also ask me. I'll provide you. You can put it in the query box as well, and apart from that, you can ask it in the, you can say that the YouTube video down under that in the comment box. You can ask for the same. In the next lecture when I'll come, I'll share the URL with you as well. Done. So I believe that now it's permitted to wind up this session, conclude this session. Thank you very much. Bye, friends.